Happy Thursday morning, everybody. The World Cup rolls on in Qatar. Group F and E decided today, the final match day of the group. It's our most Cup and Country watch-along show. I am Andrew Wiebe with an all-star cast. I'm just going to shut up. I'm going to pull the zipper. We've got Mehdi Ballouchy talking Morocco. Of course, Morocco trying to advance to the knockout round for the second time in their history against Canada today. Patrice Bernier is here. Patrice, that means, unfortunately, as I look at the scenarios, as we all have, heartbreak, man. Heartbreak. Canada already out, but plenty to play for. Attacking lineup coming this way. Then David Goss, the voice of the World Cup. Cup of Country today. He and Bobby Warshaw have been holding it steady all tournament long. And here's where we stand in Group F as we get ready for the day's action. FS1, if you're watching in the U.S., is where Canada and Morocco is. And then you have Croatia and Belgium on Big Fox. Croatia atop the group. Of course, 4-1 winners against Canada. Tough one for John Herdman and the boys there. That knocked them out of the World Cup. Morocco with a huge win against Belgium, and they have it all to play for today. Mehdi, I'm going to start with you, man. Is this the biggest day in Moroccan soccer, Moroccan football history right now? Or, I mean, you have one other knockout round appearance in 86. That might be when you were born.
Exactly.
This is a massive, massive moment.
For sure. Not in my generation have we gone through the second round. So this, that 86 team people still talk about. So these guys have a chance to make us forget about that 86 World Cup and give us hope. So it's been good so far, and it'll be a tough one against Canada.
Morocco through. If they win against Canada, they would be the winner or the runner-up, depending on that Croatia result and tiebreakers. If they draw, they're qualifying regardless as the runner-up. So they just need a result here. Even if they lose, they would qualify with a Belgium loss or potentially a Belgium draw, depending on tiebreakers. Are you nervous, Mehdi?
Yes. I think the Belgium Croatia. I think people have written kind of Belgium out. I don't think they're just out yet. I think there'll be a tough match today for Croatia, especially with the amount of turnover in the starting lineup. I think there's some fresh faces, some fresh legs, and people wanting to prove things.
We'll get to the lineups here in just a second, but Patrice, I got to go to you, man. How you feeling today? What's the vibe like up north? What's it like in your heart right now?
I can't say disappointed. I think realistically, I wanted to be surprised, but I knew this was a tough group. But yeah, definitely, you look at the Belgium game, you'll go, if that had turned better, this would be a final for Canada. They'd have something to play for. But yet still, 36 years in the waiting, you have to I can't say bite the bullet, but you have to start working in your ways for 2026 to be better there. And this is a young group. Most of them potentially will be back in 3.5 years, actually.
Let's take a look at the lineup, Dave. I know you're rooting for Morocco today. I know we both feel the same way about Canada. At least want them to go out on a high here, but not at the expense of the Moroccans. What are we seeing from John Herdman? He did not hold back with this group.
No, he didn't. But you do see some changes, I think, for the final game one. It's Steven Eustachio no longer available. Thibaut Hutchinson obviously struggling a bit in the last game. So you see Marc-Anthony Kaye get his first opportunity, and then Jonathan Osorio step into the starting lineup. And I don't think any player earned more time in qualifying than Sam Adekugbe. So I think it's really special to see him get the start. And I thought he played well off the bench. When he's come on, he'll give a little bit more structure to this team. And I think they've been pretty open when they've tried to press. And, when Alphonso Davies has played left wing back, or it was Richie Larea in the last game, they're more attacking presences. I think Adekugbe can help in the attack while still being back, but then you got the big names, right? You still have Alphonso Davies in there. Kamal Miller's been massive so far in this tournament. Alistair Johnston, we're hearing the rumors about him potentially heading to Celtic. And then Kyle Larin, who needs a goal. And he was the second leading scorer on the planet in World Cup qualifying. The guy's good enough to get one, and it would be cool to see him do it today.
All right, let's take a look at that Morocco 11 as they look to push on to the knockout rounds here. Mehdi, take us through it. We've got some big-time names in here. This is the team that got a 2-0 win against Belgium. They got to believe that this is their moment.
Same shape, 4-3-3. I think there's only flip in the midfield, right? Sabir is the guy that scored in the free kick, and he's come on the last couple of games, done a good job. I think the question is going to be, and I don't think they'll go press high. I think they'll sit somewhere mid-block like they've done the last couple of games. I think it's whether the 2-8s, which is Unahi in this one and Sabir, whether they have the juice to be able to really press the center backs and be back like they've done the last 2 games. I think they've done a lot of work in the midfield, and the question is whether can they do another one is the question. So we'll see.
All right, Christina Uncle will be with us as well. We might go to her pretty soon to talk about that interesting moment in France-Tunisia, just to educate all of us, including ourselves, as to what exactly happened there, how it might portray to the rest of the tournament. Patrice, I need your opinion on how this is going to go for Canada. Are you surprised, as Dave kind of took us through it, that there is some midfield steel here, but you might have thought they might have gone a little conservative after losing 4-1, but John Herdman saying, no, we're going down swinging.
No, I think this is very typical of John Herdman. So the factor for me is Ozor, and I have nothing against Ozor and Mark Anthony Kaye. It's just they didn't finish the season playing much. So their rhythm, their shape compared to maybe an Ismail Kone, who's played in the last 2 games, and Samuel Piet, who has the range to be a midfield enforcer. And Larin, it's understandable because Jonathan David hasn't necessarily performed, even though his expected goals is 1.05, meaning he should have probably had at least a goal. But it's a good bet because, Kyle Larin, as you mentioned, did finish top scorer in Concacaf, and in the whole year of football, he was a top of the best scorers out there. Now it's Alphonso Davies potentially playing right wing back, where we all know he plays left wing back with his club and has played there in the last 2 games, or left wing. So that's going to be interesting to see him playing where he's never played, and what Herman is trying to do maybe with a Hoylett who likes to play in the pockets, and maybe utilize Davies' speed on the right wing back, and maybe also Buchanan, who's very good on the dribble. So really interesting to see how that's going to plan out. But I expect them to be how they have been, which is to try to press and provoke things and score off transition.
Pre-game ceremonies in Al Rayyan as we see Croatia and Belgium come out. Mehdi, I have a friend in Marrakesh right now who made an intelligent decision before this World Cup on where to travel to. What's it like in Morocco today? Paint a scene for me. Where are people? What are they doing? How are they watching? What is it?
I'm not there now, but I can only imagine. I think it will be silence. I think everybody will be in somewhere watching the game. I think the country's been upside down since the Belgium win. I think that's a huge win. It's probably the biggest win in the history of the country in a major tournament, and everyone is behind. You can see the support the last 2 games. It's been incredible. A ton of friends, a lot of family members that traveled to attend the game. So this game is as big as it gets for us.
How are you watching this, Dave? Like I kind of joked that your rooting interests were with Morocco, and obviously you've.
Yeah, I literally told Mehdi before we got on, I will root for Morocco to win the World Cup, but I want Canada to win today.
He gave me the before the show apology.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you're coming from, Wiebe, saying that I'm rooting for Morocco.
Okay, I misheard.
But, naturally, this is a tough day for me because I just always root against the European teams. 2 are playing against each other, so I just have no rooting interest in Belgium, Croatia. And it's unfortunate that Canada is out before the last game, I think, because you the World Cup is such a finite amount of time. you want that extra game. But, Patrice said it, 36 years without a World Cup on the men's side. It would be nice for them to win their first game. They scored their first goal in the last game, keep progressing. And I would say to Canada fans, I think a lot of people have already, sort of talked about this, is look at where Morocco was 4 years ago. Look at where Senegal was 4 years ago. And Senegal just missing out. They get in this time. Ecuador doesn't. This is Ecuador's generation's first World Cup. Their time will be in 4 years. I think Morocco, the same. Last World Cup, they played great soccer. They don't get out. It's about understanding the big moments at a tournament like this. Now, 4 years later, it looks like they're ready to get out of the group. Canada on the backside of that. So your hope is for a Mark Anthony Kaye and a Jonathan Osorio and a Sam Adekugbe and Kyle Larin. These are guys who will be there in, as Patrice said, 3.5 years, and that this game gives them a little bit of the experience that they'll need to sort of accomplish what they want next time.
Having to listen to some national anthems right now. Mehdi, I don't know if you're watching the local news on your end. We're using a little bit of a stream service, or if you're getting the game, but I'm going to have to change that up. So just between you and me, channel 898, if you've got to make that switch on our Snapstream viewer right now. We're listening to national anthems as we prepare for Group F to do its thing and finish up and see who goes on to the knockout round. The scenarios for Morocco are pretty simple. Win or draw. Win or draw, and they are through. Seems to be a pretty manageable scenario for them, given a great win against Belgium. Belgium's in a tough spot. Croatia, they qualify as group winner with a win. If they draw and Morocco draws or loses, they will be the group winner as well. They will also be the group runner-up if they draw and Morocco wins. And if they lose, it's only if Morocco lose if they would qualify. So Croatia would be eliminated with a Morocco win or a draw if they lose. So those are your scenarios there on both sides. Belgium looking to win and get some help as well. All right, I'm going to switch this up and get my channel on the right one. We'll time you up when the time comes. We're about 3 minutes away. Patrice, we've already got people asking about Wilfried Nancy in the chat. So if you think they could distract them from what's going on in Montreal, that is obviously not possible right now.
Wilfried Nancy for Canadian men's national team?
Canada time.
Is that what you're saying, Patrice? Nancy to take over for Herdman?
No, I don't think so. I think Herdman has. I'm pretty sure he has unfinished business. He did the same with the women's side, so I see him carrying on. And I think he mentioned it, unless something really fantastic drops on his lap and he wants to go at club football. But no, in terms of Wilfried Nancy, we'll see. There's been rumors. Nothing's been confirmed. It just seems like Montreal's losing a lot of people. If it's the case, because Arthur Johnson seems like he's on his way out. Ismail Kone could be leaving. And we all know Georgi Mihailovic is gone. And Wanyama is not coming back. So it's going to be interesting if the coach leaves finally. It's a shift with players and a new coach, because that might be a new philosophy. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
Is it for sure that Wanyama's going? Or is that negotiation in the public sphere?
So far, from what's being said, there's not been any more news in terms of hearing that he is on the cusp of signing something new. It's if he does, it's coming out of the rabbit out of a hat, because everybody's right now in their mindset that he is not here next year. So, and I don't know if Wilfried Nancy not coming back, could that influence his decision? Maybe he would want to come back, but if the coach is not coming back, you have ties with somebody new, you want to restart, that could all play itself out also.
All right, we are preparing here for the kickoff for Group F. Group E to come later. Should be a wonderful day of World Cup action. How'd you guys experience yesterday, by the way? I mean,
I had no idea about that whole yellow card situation. Like at the end of the Mexico game when they started.
It's crazy. The tiebreakers, man.
I thought Martino had like one more, and I was thinking maybe it's one more minute, but then he's asking for one more goal. But that's after 2-1. It was craziness.
Felt like my insides were melting watching that. I cannot imagine what it was like to be an El Tri fan or a member of that team in any way, in any capacity. I have a friend who's a teacher in Denver and teaches in a school with a lot of Mexican Americans, and he had a video he sent me of them watching in his classroom as the game is ending, and kids are literally ripping their shirt in half and slamming on the table They won't have to worry about Tata Martino anymore. But the kickoff is coming here. Got the Canada game. Okay, we are underway. Let's start our watch along clock. Canada, Morocco, Croatia, and Belgium. Already a shot for Croatia, whistling it right by that post. Croatia trying to get this thing done early. They were the ones that went down early against Canada.
Pat, does it look like a 4-4-2?
Sorry?
Is that a different shape? Canada, it looks like almost like a 4-4-2.
No, defensively, it's always a 4-4-2. It's when they attack, it becomes a 3-4-3. So people haven't maybe noticed it, but when they defend, it's a block of 4-4-2. It's just really because the shape of attacking has influenced people to believe that they defend that way. But it's usually been a 4-4-2, as Buchanan has been on the right mostly, and he would tuck in next to Atiba and Eustáquio when they played the last game. And so they've been fond of this way of defending, to have that block and play a 4-4-2, so that all the moving parts are in the right position defensively, and then offensively they're still in the conditions to be able to attack, so that Buchanan goes up front, or Alfonso goes up front also, and they're in the right positions to utilize their skill set.
I'll never forget John Herdman now for switching Fonzie on sides, because Hakimi's the best right back in the world and Fonzie's the best left back in the world. And we don't get that matchup because Alphonso Davies is playing right back today.
Yeah, unless he's trying to repeat Alfonso's goal against, if I'm correct, Panama, where he was on the right side, took the ball on, cut inside, and with his left foot shot. So maybe he's trying to utilize not just his speed, but being a left footer, playing on the right side of the field. But definitely would have been nice to see Hakimi play against Alphonso Davies, because it's two of the better players in that position, in their respective positions at club level. So
those other guys are teammates, though. The Mazraoui and
at Munich. So that's another challenge. Yeah. They know each other from working together on a daily basis. So, but I'm curious to see how Osorio and Marc-Anthony Kaye combined in the middle, having not played for months, and then you come into play at that level and having to dictate things for Canada, because Eustáquio has been there game in, game out, and has been my favorite player in terms of for the national team in the midfield and in the whole block of all that group.
Mehdi, we did a bit of World Cup preview stuff, and it was really interesting learning about what went down with Halihovic, and then he gets fired. And what's the perception of the new coach, and is he just like a stopgap, or is he someone that you think can build the program over the years?
No, he's well respected. He's won the the African Champions League with that. He's done a really good job in the league.
That's not good. It's coming your way. I'm ahead.
Oh no!
Now I gotta stop talking. I gotta wait for this.
No, but I won't say it. It's just
how do you deal with nervousness, Mehdi? I'm more of a I'll just talk through it. Some people are just shut down. How do you watch a game like this?
Oh no!
Hold up, goal!
Wow!
Here you go.
Come on, Vittoria.
Big clearance up the left-hand side. I think I know what's coming. Steven Vittoria with a that's going to be a mistake. Milan Borjan with a mistake of his own, and that is not a shining moment for Canada. Borjan chipped. Goal Morocco 1-0. With that scoreline, as we watch the live
I think
standings there, that is not a moment to remember. But come on, Mehdi, you can celebrate, man. It's I'm
too early. Trying to answer your question. I don't want to leave you hanging. But I think the last coach has done a really good job. He was just a bit more defensive for the group, and I think, of course, he had some problems with some guys like Ziyech, Mizrahi. These guys are big players at the end, and the federation felt like, if we're gonna go to the World Cup and we don't get to go to all of them, right? We need our best players there, and I think he got the best out of those guys, because he is.
But that's a great job, because he got the job in September, if I'm correct. So he had the
I think he has the ability to get the group together. Like, you can see the group enjoying themselves. They're fighting. They want to express them. Like, they've been in the block for the last 2 games, working, suffering really, And I think when you see that, you can respect the coach, because all these guys don't want to be it. Trust me, they don't want to be in a block. They want to fly. They want to press like Canada.
Especially Ziyech, we all know he's a number 10 at heart. So
exactly. So when you get those guys to work the way they've been working, you got to give the man some respect.
I would have loved the other coach, because Ziyech would not have been on the field to score that goal right now. So.
Yeah. Canadians just paying to get Halihovic.
We'll see how Canada pulls through.
Did you guys freeze, or is it just me?
No, mine froze too.
Yeah, I've pulled up Canada and Morocco on the TV.
Yeah.
Give it try a refresh here, guys.
But I have a question about. So, would you say Canada plays, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, I would say Canada plays more like a Montreal than a Toronto, and it's kind of surprising to me. Outside, of course, I'm not Canadian, but like to see the two midfielders out of the Toronto team play, and not to say anything about them, because they got Osorio and K have quality. They almost don't fit that. They haven't really played their system, where Piet and Cornet have been class all season in this system. So
yeah, there's that reality. There's the reality for me is mostly because we all know Osorio has been absent at the end of the year. He had an injury, and Mark Anthony unfortunately didn't have the rhythm and some injuries. So they're coming into where they're not in as much confidence as Ismael and Samuel Piet, who finished the season strong, who play there regularly together at club, while we know also usually plays a little bit more advanced. The thing that I'm stunned is because he did say he would count on the players who played longest, and normally in Montreal, unfortunately, we lost to you guys, but Montreal players played all the way to November and very, very good confidence. Samuel Piet has probably played his best soccer from July on to the rest of the year, and Ismael really took another step after the revelation of the beginning of the season. Yeah. So it's funny that he didn't go with club and system ties, but I guess certain players, he knows them best because they've been together for the last few years. So he knows them, he entrusted them, and put them out there. So I think that played in the factor of who starts in this game. But definitely not just as Montreal. I think Ismael. The thing is, he played in the last two games for several minutes, and now not to start him goes like you have confidence for him to play in the games, but not to start the games.
Right.
So unfortunately, we'll see. We'll see if it pans out for them as there's still some football to play.
You can't watch with us, obviously. This is a watch along. We've got Mehdi Ballouchy, Moroccan-born, and he's a youth international there. Of course, played many years in Major League Soccer, and now is a coach with New York City FC. We've got Patrice Bernier, longtime Canadian international. David Goss, expert on all things soccer.
I was going to say, what am I about to get?
I know I had to get. You know what? I had to.
Didn't play for any youth national team.
Well, Long Island youth national team. All right.
I did get smoked by a Mexican U17 select squad one time at a tournament in Madrid.
Here is that goal for Morocco.
For Canada.
I'm not Mexican. I lost to a Mexico team.
Okay.
What do we, Patrice, Mehdi? What do we think of this goal? This is a rough moment for Canada, and it's sort of a gift. Let's be honest, for Morocco early in this match.
Definitely two mistakes there. Vitor bad pass back, and Milan could have cleared it completely. So it's been a bit where. I'm not going to lie, but in Concacaf, Canada has maybe been challenged by Mexico and the U.S., and the back line really hasn't been challenged as much because they tend to have the ball a little bit more during the Concacaf qualifiers. And now in this tournament, we a bit got more exposed into the reality of our three center backs, you could say, and managing teams that are very good and I would say clinical. Because Belgium wasn't great, but they took one ball out of the top, 1-0. And that's the highest level. And that's where we need to learn to be able to live with the fine details of not making defensive mistakes like that goal.
Patrice, I was talking before the game. I don't know. I know you write a lot of articles, so I assume you put together a lineup. Did you have Dane St. Clair in just to get the experience?
No.
I
just knew that John Herdman they want to set records. They did with scoring a goal, but They wouldn't do better than 86 without winning a point. So he's going to put out the best 11 he thinks is out there. So to give out a game, some coaches would have done it. Maybe he'll sub him, but I think he's still going for. He was going for. I didn't put him. I did put Atiba as potential center back because Atiba, even though yes he's slowed down and maybe struggling last game, his football acumen is high and his passing pedigree is as best, if not best, than anybody on that team. So maybe him at the back would have been settled, and knowing that Morocco was going to play a mid block, you're going to be dictating with somebody who can break lines because he does it as a midfielder. Maybe he could have done it as a center back.
Pressure on Canada right now. Free kick for Morocco. Just throwing it out there for folks watching. Tune in here. Ziyech with the ball in, cleared out. Sorry, Mehdi. Go ahead, man.
The quick one for Pat is because I'd say Canada's solid in the midfield. Whether you got the two guys that are playing, of course, good players, and then you have, as you said, Pietz, and you have Kone. Would you have gone with three midfielders?
Today, no, but against Croatia, I think that was the best bet because you're playing against the best midfield in their group and probably in the whole tournament. But he likes to go forward and sticks to the 3-4-3. Definitely, when you look at it, adding the extra midfielder, either you put Hoylett as a number 10 or you put that extra midfielder, Ismail Kone or Sam Piet, to sit in front of the defense because it would have helped the defense, I think. They need somebody who's either a pure ball winner or having three that actually overload in the midfield and don't get exposed. And I think against Croatia, that's where we lost. It's mostly because it was a numerical advantage. And you have Brozovic, Kovacic, and Luka Modric, who's ageless, running the show. 3v2, that's a walk in the park. That's like a smoking cigar for them. 3v3, then you're challenging them a bit. So I think this game, not necessarily, but the last game, it would have been, I guess, better bet to have an extra midfielder out there.
Yeah.
Is this it for Atiba, Patrice? Like, this is his international career?
I cannot speak for Atiba, but I think so because I could say he had retired already before. They convinced him to come back. And having chatted with him, knowing that we're close, he came back because he's heard it before. He's had other coaches come back, things are going to be better. And then once he saw the group, the culture, and he added on, I think he felt that this was really an opportunity here because he had all those deceptions from the past. And now I'm happy for him.
The deceptions of the past. God,
I can't lie. It is what it is. But now, at least for him, I would say that this is his swan song. Not only that his last hurrah with the national team, but he's the only player who will have 100 caps or more. Because I think Canada is probably one of the only countries that doesn't have a player who has 100 caps. That's means wild. That we didn't play that many games or we changed a lot of the personnel. So now that he has 100, I believe this will be this is his last minutes with the national team, knowing that he's going the great way out. Even though they're not going to the next round, you've reached the ultimate goal, which is going to the World Cup.
Patrice, not resume, quality. Is he the greatest men's Canadian soccer player ever?
For me, he's the GOAT. Alfonso has to catch up to him. Alfonso's young, talented, has all the club to him, but that's the mantle he's going to have to go and get, and which probably he will. But for me, I've played with Atiba for the last decade or so, and he was fantastic. Yeah, you're just seeing now. Yes, I've seen it.
We've got a corner kick coming up from Morocco that obviously is starting a little late for me, by the way. Dries Mertens also just skied one over the bar. Really good scoring opportunity for Belgium. Of course, we're watching closely Canada-Morocco, but Croatia-Belgium will partially decide this group as well.
Isn't that why you play Tajon on the right and Fonzie on the left, so he goes with his left foot there?
Yeah. We'll ask that question to John Herman after the game.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask Mehdi, if they go to the next round, how far do you think they can go for Morocco?
I'm superstitious. I can't talk about the next round. That's
I was gonna say, I can tell. I was trying to pull some
tension.
celebrations out of Mehdi. I was trying to get the emotions rolling, and he was not
I
having
see
that.
the
He was like,
tenseness.
"Get out of
Like
here!"
all people probably in Morocco
Pat
watching the
thinks
game,
he's clever. He's trying to
just-
put me in the trap.
just hoping things stay like that.
Pat's like, "Hey, we're eliminated, man. You know what? I can say whatever I want
I'm
to
free.
say.
I've been
Yeah.
liberated. I've reached the ultimate goal, which was the World Cup. We know 2026 is another chance for this group.
I'll say this. I think it's a solid squad. I'm not sure. It also depends on who you play. I think the front guys can make things happen if they're confident, and they will be if Morocco does end up in the second round, because they'll be free. They'll literally be gambling with free money. I think the problem is going to be this. So if teams press us a little bit higher, I don't know if we have the quality with the center backs to come out with the ball. I don't think our 6 can progress the ball as well as the next round needs for the front guys to express themselves. So I think
penalty, by the way, in the Croatia-Belgium game.
For
Croatia. Luka Modric standing over the ball. Teammate in goal. Courtois bouncing back and forth. Belgium need a stop here. Didn't look like the most contact, but certainly not one that's going to be overturned. Maybe we can get Christina here in a little bit to give us a viewpoint on that penalty call.
Patrice.
Yes.
Oh, penalty being checked. They're delaying here. We'll see what happens.
Do you think that Herdman picked Fonzie against Belgium for the penalty, or he picked himself on the field? And what do you think about it?
No, I think Alfonso said, I'm taking it. He lifted his hand, I'm pretty sure. I would have wanted Jonathan David to shoot it because he shoots it for Lille. He's taken the several for national team. And I think that
review initiated. This one's going to come back, it seems like.
Yeah. Shooting
it
looked
pretty soft. It looked like there was a contact watching live.
Yeah.
Patrice, continue.
Yeah, shooting PKs, you have to have that habit because it's a 1v1 and you're going against Thibaut Courtois, who's 6'6". Even though you're confident to go take it, guys were there, and the stealth mentality that Jonathan has in front of goal, I would have loved for Jonathan David to take it. But kudos to Alfonso because he stepped up, wanted to take the responsibility. But I would have loved for Jonathan David to have taken it, which is a bit interesting because I know John Herdman is very methodical, plans everything. And for that aspect, he leaves it to the players. I would have assumed that he would have said, okay, if there's a shot, it's this. He's number 1 and he's number 2.
Right.
But he had given them the choice.
No PK given, offside on the initial free kick to start that play.
This is kind of a miracle for Belgium.
Oh, I'm telling you, I rooted after the first game. I said, I don't know if Belgium is making it to the next round, but because it just seems like they're past their level.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Maybe if Lukaku had been their first game,
ask De Bruyne, he'll tell you. We're past it, man. It was 2018 for us. I thought that was incredible that he would say that publicly, but
yeah,
still 0-0, Croatia, Belgium. Yeah, De Bruyne. Interesting timing to share those thoughts. Certainly.
I was talking to Mehdi about this before. I tried to read the article that was said in. It wasn't said recently. It was a sit down in Manchester like months ago. With the Guardian.
This is a classic.
It's also not. I'll go look at it again right now. It's not in quotes. I don't think it was said to the reporter. I think it was said while he was in the house. Let me go look though, but it's obviously now become the big storyline.
Feels a little bit like similarities here, but I was thinking about this the other day as we were seeing the U.S. go through and like all these moments for that program. Do you remember when Jurgen Klinsmann, I think it was by the Times, was basically quoted as saying the U.S. cannot win the World Cup? And look, I don't think any of us are particularly naive. Like the odds are stacked upon stacked upon stacked against the U.S. in 2014. Like they weren't going to win that tournament, but you probably don't want to say it. But it was published right before the World Cup when he said it, like in January. Not in a situation where he was off the record, but that sort of delay. But man, that you can understand sometimes.
So here's the quote. The writer says his management team. So he went to De Bruyne's house. The writer, he says his management team are also here today, and he's talking to them in a quiet, flat voice. It's so understated you almost tune out. Then you hear what he's saying. Asked if Belgium can win the World Cup, he says, "quote No chance. We're too old." It's only 7 months ago that Belgium were ranked number 1. It's not clear in that, to me, that he said that to the reporter.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And that's one of the things.
That makes a massive difference because it was read like, okay, we lost. Salty De Bruyne is coming out.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I think the average person thinks he said it in the press conference.
And I did as well. To be honest, until you brought it up pre-show, I had no idea. I thought it was post first game or post first game. But if you said that before, I think people are making.
So this is the line that follows it up, and this is why I think this. The line that follows this up says one of his reps says it must be a dream playing with Erling Haaland, the extraordinary prolific striker, and he says, "quote it's like any forward. Even he thinks his response is underwhelming. He is so quick though." He adds, like it seems like it happened in a conversation and not in the interview, which doesn't change the fact that he thinks it, right? I think it changes the perception of like what he's willing to say, and while everyone's like, "Oh, well, he thinks the team lost, that's why he said it."
Yeah. It basically it felt like, "Oh, we lost, so I'm frustrated."
Yeah.
That's where I mean, and this is in any quote, the context is often just as or more important than it's actually said. When's it said? How's it said? What's the conversation in which it's said? And we all understand that within our own lives, our own conversations.
It's also why.
Go ahead.
Chris Jones, probably Alphonso Davies doesn't want to talk to you, because this is what happens when players talk to media in Europe is you get an absurd quote that makes no sense, that's pulled out of context. That's the headline of an article.
Let's give some context to the referee decision that we just saw. Croatia had a penalty taken off. Luka Modric was not happy about it. Long discussion with the referee there. Christina Unkel is our refereeing expert here. She's here to educate us, and sometimes, by God, we need educating. Christina, what happened on this play from your point of view?
Yeah, so Anthony Taylor, second game of the group play, sees contact on the top of the boot for that penalty. However, in the VAR review leading into the attacking phase of play, leading towards that penalty that he had given, which the two angles I saw talking about that penalty itself, the actual foul or potential foul, not really sure. I was convinced that was a penalty. I would want some better camera angles. However, it's kind of a moot point because they had offside leading to it. And this was an offside. Oh, okay. We'll wait for you guys. Will see it here shortly.
Oh, wow.
This is an offside that led to it. So if you guys want to jump into that, I'll finish up my statement here.
This is the pain of being behind. The pain. What as we wait for this to happen, Christina? I mean, it occurs to me all these players and coaches are trying to advance. Ball in behind, down the right flank, in behind, up, goal, Morocco, up 2-0. Things going well for them. Potential to even win the group here. Do you feel comfortable, Mehdi? You feeling the intensity drop at all? Or are we still just
No, I think it's a great goal. He needed it. He's been getting a lot of heat for starting the amount of games that he has, and I think a lot of the reason he plays because he's tactically well drilled defensively. Like he's really good in the press. He's really good in the mid block. He doesn't score as many. Doesn't really come onto a lot of chances, but this will free him hopefully for the next game. And he's he plays for City. He has that competition. He's in a good team, good league. It just for some reason hasn't really produced with Morocco.
25-year-old, just absolutely driving it past. Christina, I want to finish on this thought. Yeah. What's at stake for these referees in these final games?
Yeah, I mean everything, right? Very similar to the players. You get a bite at a World Cup if you're lucky, right? It's every once in a 4-year chance. You go into the cycle, right? There's huge qualifications to even get here in the first place. And if you don't have a good one-game performance, you might have one World Cup game and that's it. And you've been in this program for 8 years, right? Trying to get there. And we're all judged by our mistakes and not by all the good stuff that we do, unfortunately. But it's okay. That's this world. But yeah, same thing for the officials. I mean, it's a huge qualification. What you're seeing is what's considered the top 1% of each federation that gets selected to go to this tournament. And even in that mix, you have to, compete against each other. So very similar. And the process starts super early to even begin climbing the ladder. And when you get to this point, right, I mean, it's just incredible the amount of sacrifice one has to do. I know for a couple of World Cup year with all the pre-tournaments before it, you're home maybe. You can count more days that you're at home than when you're away at tournaments getting ready for this, as you should be. It's the biggest tournament in the entire world. But yeah, let me conclude real quick on the Croatia one. Offside. People are asking real quick. I got some questions. Why are they setting them to the monitor if it's just an offside position, right?
I saw that as well.
Yeah, the important part there is because we're taking away a penalty for a foul, we want the referee to make sure and kind of sell that decision and clarify that this is the reasoning why. So that people feel there's transparency and that the referee has seen it in order to take away a penalty, which is a huge decision. So that's the reason why. And then why you don't see the 3D graphic yet. You saw the 2D visual. You saw the gray line. Oh, that was a hard tackle. Is because it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to create that 3D graphic. So they still have semi-automatic technology. It drops the lines. And that's what truly the VAR is used to show the referees and also make the decisions in the booth.
There is a political side of the way it's presented as well, as there should be. We've got to get all little details right. I think a correct decision there in Croatia, Belgium. Thank you so much, Christina. We'll be back here in a little bit. All right.
Sounds good.
Mehdi, who's the biggest on this Morocco team? Like in Morocco, who's the guy? Is it Ziyech? Is it Hakimi? Who is the dude?
I think if I had to pick one out of them two, I think I would go Ziyech, because when things are not going well, he's the guy who will drop and get on the ball and start dictating. Like you see it when we're struggling against Croatia, he's the one that, can come and kind of give us a little bit something different. Hakim has been class, right? Like Hakim is, is a great leader. He's one of the best right backs in the world. But I think if we come, especially I think with the Ziyech situation coming back to the national team, I think.
Do people not blame him? Are people not mad at him for not coming?
To be fair to him, he's been really good during that. Like he never came out and said bad things about the coach. He never came out and said bad things about the team. He just said, I don't want to play for this coach, and that's it. He never kind of went into why or anything, which is I think really clever, because now he's looked at, especially after the performance of last game, and then he scores.
Mm-hmm.
Who's easier to get rid of, him or the coach? Huh?
Yeah, and I think he ended up, on the positive side of that argument.
And it was the story that they turned down the option to come to friendlies, and Halilovic never paid them for it?
Something like he said, or pretended to be injured, not to play in a game, and it was a friendly. I think at some point, like with these guys playing at Chelsea, to bring him back to Morocco to play like around like. I think one of the probably the biggest job in the national team, and it's totally different than the club level, is how do you get your group together, and how do you get your best players to perform, because you don't have them every day. And if you don't get the best out of Alphonso Davies, now it's actually kind of sad that we're talking about him that way. Like he's been the guy for Canada. Like he shouldn't be the one now that we're saying, well, he's wearing earrings or he's doing this and that. Like, how do you get the best players to perform, and how do you get that togetherness within the group that quick, because you don't have a lot of time with them. And I think you see it small. This is where you see actually smaller teams do well. It can beat the big teams. It's not because of quality or tactical knowledge or anything. It's just a lot of it is fight and togetherness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we saw for Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
And the win over Argentina is that's a team that plays together consistently, and Renard picked a tactic that was unique, and they perfected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at these full group standings right now. Of course, we are about 30 minutes, half hour into finding out who will move on from Group F. We know Canada will not. If these
results, you gotta mention it. Why you gotta keep mentioning it?
I'm just, we
already know.
All right, I'll stop. No more, Pat. So far, 3 losses in the live standings here, but you have goals on the far right, goal differential. Right now, Morocco ahead. Of course, Croatia getting a point from their 0-0 against Belgium right now. But you would see Belgium out of this World Cup with a win, a draw, and a loss, and a negative goal differential. So as it stands, Morocco and Croatia would be through.
That means Morocco will potentially play Japan or Germany, because they're first of Group F. If you're looking at the round of 16. So that's not bad. Finishing first. Second, you'd be playing Spain. Or
you're gonna
wow.
You could play Spain.
Yeah, Pura Vida, you're already counting out Costa Rica.
Costa Rica beats
Here
Germany.
after you complained that we said that we
I'm sorry.
that Canada's out.
Before the tournament, I put Costa Rica not going through. Have you seen their group?
Yeah,
you
but
never know. They could
got the
pull off
win last
something.
game.
They could pull off something.
If they tie today, they could go through if Spain wins. Come on.
Pat, do you think has there been like a reality check for Concacaf in this tournament?
For CONCACAF,
I mean,
I think
the exception
personally, the US, I didn't see them going to the next round either. It's not in terms of quality; it's just nobody finishing, no finisher. You scored 2 goals after 3 games.
Oh,
and the guy was scored.
Patrice can't see. Maybe he's blind. Maybe he's blind.
I'm speaking pure reality in terms of CONCACAF, not in terms of quality.
I know.
US
Patrice,
is quite good with that.
The US has Joe Scally and Gio Reyna. Mehdi Ballouchy coached both of them. You know we're going to get through. Come on.
No, but you're talking about talent. I'm talking about the reality of could you finish? And you all know because you mentioned it.
Yeah, we know.
You guys said about your team.
No, you already said it, Patrice. You're going to say it again.
Mexico was probably the highest chance because if you look at their group, finishing second was potential. It was them in Poland. When nobody expected Saudi Arabia except for the surprise. And Costa Rica, just looking at their group, was going to be difficult, and especially the first game, they took a beating. It almost seems like they didn't want to play that game because
it was like a double beating, to be fair.
But at the end of the day, I believe that the countries who are used to going to the World Cup have a bit higher standards, and maybe their expectations and their readiness to know what it takes to go to the next round, which Canada doesn't because we haven't been there for 36 years. So,
what was missing, do you think, for Canada in that sense, sort of in that? The experience side of things. What will they gain from this that they can then apply? And where was maybe the naivete shown here?
For me, it's final third. Final third, you learn what it takes. It's details. Even though we scored tons of goals in CONCACAF, the games that were the closest were probably against USA and Canada, which were detailed, and they don't play enough of those games. Canada, Mexico, and USA. Now with the standard that they've built from the last World Cups, they play against top-ranked teams regularly. And Canada learned that you may play well, but you still have to finish your chances. And you see it in the Belgium game. They had 18 shots on goal inside the box. And you didn't have but did Thibaut Courtois make top-of-the-line saves? That means you didn't really create that many chances where Courtois saved the game except for the penalty. So I think final third for me, next level, and players playing at that level also, because we have 3 or 4 playing in top level leagues, and it's for more of them to be playing on a regular basis at that level, so that you have that final detail to be able to win those types of games.
2-0 Morocco right now. We are 33 minutes in. If you are watching along with us, it's still scoreless between Croatia and Belgium. Quote just coming through from Christian Pulisic on his pelvic contusion. Quote, "No, I didn't get hit in the balls." Just clarifying for everyone out there.
That's good clarification.
Yeah.
Christina, what are they looking at in this one?
Is that a handball, maybe?
Is it a pop potential?
Call it. I gotta look at it.
I don't see much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking a look here, and I don't know if they're looking for anything on the field versus a technical matter off of the field. Trying to take a look too, whether it's people on the bench credentials, and the reason why I bring that up is we have the 4th official, we have the AR, and they're all looking at like some type of a pass, which these cuts and edits to the fans don't help, although that kid's
Mounties. Christina, we saw in the Tunisia game them streaming the other game on the bench. Is that allowed? Does it matter?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago, no technology. By the way, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So it must be a technical off-field matter. About 5 to 6 years ago, no technology was allowed on the side, which is funny because Herman used to always have technology on the side when it wasn't allowed. And I would always have to say it's for the safety of the player, right? But it wasn't allowed. Now, I mean, it was so hard to regulate. We couldn't regulate it as referees. We're like, what are we really doing? So finally, IFAB clarified and said, ideally technology that's there for the safety of the player, right? Heart rate tracking, all of that stuff. And now it's kind of, they can use almost whatever technology they want, which is, many of you guys see the earpiece and someone's up in the booth giving them guidance on it. So if you can't regulate it, you gotta let it be. So yeah, sides are allowed to have technology now.
Christina, we have a tweet for you to take a look at here. And this is the 3D imagery that you mentioned takes time to produce, and it'll take time for us to get it up as well. But, of course, you work with Ian Joy on the regular. He says, you'll see here as once it comes up, this is the most razor thin of, thin margins. And I saw Doyle tweet this, and I completely agree with this, and I did before this moment, that it makes me appreciate MLS's use of clear and obvious in video review, and also the fact that we actually don't have sort of these 3D renderings and ball sensors and everything else to where goals by literal centimeters
and
are being taken off. Like, this is, I don't know if this is justice. I don't know if this is what I want video review for. That's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a penalty decision should be taken off the board for this. If you don't think it's a penalty, if there's not evidence that it's a clear penalty, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at this image, and you'll see it in a second if you're watching with us. I don't know where, right here. How can you see who's ahead? Is that Belgian player really ahead?
So here's where, and this has actually been really good, right? So this is the first introduction of semi-automated, and by really good meaning just an awareness standpoint for FIFA and IFAB. This is the first real tournament. Champions League does it, but this is the first tournament with semi-automated offside technology, meaning I think there's over 20 cameras dedicated to tracking. It sounds weird to say this, limb tracking technology. Literally every body part of all 22 players are being tracked simultaneously in synchronization with these cameras. So that being said, they're saying to everyone, trust that the cameras are correct, that they're all synced, and that they're tracking not just the body, but the sensor in the ball when the ball is actually first touched and impacted, because that's when we calculate it for an offside, is when it's first touched, not when it's finally released off the foot. And they're saying with all this technology combined, this is what's giving us the exact pinpoint precise time when the ball is hit and where everyone is at that exact same time. We always used to joke, right? People are offside by toenails. Right now, this image, you're offside by the sheer margin of your top of your shoulder. Which is a reminder.
and part just the smallest percentage of your shoulder versus another percentage of Croatia defender's shoulder. I mean, I don't know, man.
I know, I'm with you. I saw this one. I laughed. I sent it on to our people in the back, Anders and co. And I'm just like, this is where, right, the whole point of offside is to avoid an unfair advantage to the attackers, right? I would argue that defenders too, I played defense. Like, I wouldn't argue that this is an unfair advantage by a slight bit of one shoulder, right? It doesn't rise to that level. However, with offside being black and white and so scientific in the football world, I need to clarify, not the referee world. We didn't ask for all of this. We didn't ask for balls to be charged before a game. That's phenomenal too. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The balls actually get charged before the game, like an iPhone. None of us asked for this technology. Football world wanted perfection. And now we're seeing what it looks like. And I mean, to your point, in MLS, we kind of laughed when we rolled it out in 2017 saying, to drop those blue and red lines, those offside lines, those cost millions of dollars for that system. But that's why we never had those insane toenail offside, that Premier League had, which I think everyone preferred. Not only do we save millions of dollars, the rest of the world was happy. So, this one's a tough one, but it's up to you guys to change the discussion, because the referees can't change this discussion.
Well, we're pushing on it. Thank you, Christina. We will see if we get another call here in the first half and maybe get some clarification on Tunisia, France with you here at a later point of the show. I don't know. I would ask you, I feel like I could ask Mehdi. I don't want to put you on the spot on video review necessarily, because you got to be on a sideline, man. But Patrice, what do you think about video review at large? Just the concept of video review. Are you for it?
Look, the purist says man, this game should have just stayed the same. But at the end of the day, it's going so fast. The ball goes faster. The players are faster. And we needed the technology. Now, I do agree. I get frustrated with some of the calls in MLS, but at least this is what's been said. If it's not clear and obvious, then we're not going to overturn the call. So you can't.
What do we got?
Let's go.
Now,
Sam Adekugbe, baby.
Nervous? Is this going to be nervous moments?
Oh, go! I see now. Mehdi tense.
I'm rooting. I'm rooting for
I'm gonna be watching, like, get close to the camera.
I'm rooting for Mehdi's happiness.
But no, I agree.
Cross deflected.
Oh, yes.
Morocco goalkeeper gets a finger on it, but it sneaks inside the near post. It is 2-1 Morocco, Canada. Canada has not, let's say, shown too much in this game, but there's a moment.
Shift the momentum.
We giving that one to Sam, or
come on?
What are you giving it to Adekugbe, or is this?
They're giving it.
Come on, it's World Cup. Just give him the goal.
Give him the goal.
Did you not see his mother celebrating his appearance in the first game? We need to give her every moment of joy that we possibly can muster.
Now I'm all about give the goal to the guy who shot instead of getting OG.
Did he shoot?
No category for OG anyway.
But if it was a shot, I don't think it was a shot. So it's
yeah,
not
but
on
it's
target.
like in hockey. You deflected the
wow,
guy
so Canadian of you.
At least
you guys know that Patrice basically was.
And then I know Goss is like he's gonna take a reference from hockey, being the
no. Patrice was basically like played in AAA hockey before he went to Syracuse and was like borderline a professional hockey player.
It's called,
I did not know that.
That's juniors, right, Patrice?
Yeah, it's the ranks just before you get picked to the NHL. Unfortunately, I didn't get that chance, but I went to the States.
Could you think could you have played in the NHL or no?
I think the NHL of today fits more to the type of player that I was back then. And to be clear, I played when there was the red line existed. So that means you had to pass the puck before the red line to be able to enter the other zone. Now there's no more red line. So that means the game is faster and more mobile. So my skill set probably suited best the game now. Back then, I was playing on defense, 5'10", 175 pounds. I was a lightweight. So even though I was probably decent back then, no. Today, I think I would probably have a better shot to actually make it because players are more of my style of play.
To be a Renaissance man in the wrong moment of history.
Hey, sometimes, man.
Decent soccer career for Patrice, though, so it all worked out.
Can you imagine, though, being borderline pro in two sports, or borderline pro in one and
my
model, the other?
My inspiration was Bo Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Bo knows,
Gotta know Bo.
Baseball, football. And I was like, man, if he can play two sports, why can I? Why can I not?
Wow.
It's the Canadian Dion. Mehdi, how does Morocco manage this game now?
Another skill after that.
I think they just got to get to halftime now and just, get the nerves to settle. I think the one thing about Canada in this game is they're free. For me, it's like they've pressed the last two games. They're almost not pressing as high, as aggressive in this one. I think this one should be the one. There's really nothing to lose now. I think 2-1 is tricky, of course, but I think if you get to Morocco's got to get to halftime, settle the nerves, and then come back and get back in the game again. So I think these are the moments when you give up one and you're a little bit anxious they can give up another one.
It's interesting. Someone put up a tweet, and I don't think this is the end all be all of all 32 teams in the World Cup, the percentage of their players that play in the Big Five leagues, which I think misses stuff. Like I would argue, Steven Eustachio playing for FC Porto's in there and stuff. But Canada is 4th to last at the World Cup, just above Mexico, which is interesting as well.
You remember when I think we did this segment where last time we did a game with Canada, Uruguay, if I'm correct?
Mm-hmm.
I told you John Herman made those calculations. The teams that go to the next round will go furthest or farthest is the teams that have the most players playing in top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
And when we did all this group, of course, I'm Canadian, but Morocco has tons of players playing in top 5 leagues. So even though Croatia and Belgium were favorites, from their standings, from their pedigree. Morocco was ahead in terms of, if you go squad-wise, the quality is because it's daily in and out. You're competing against guys like what Alfonso's doing. He's competing for the spot every day to win the title and win Champions League. That every day it pushes him. Look at the player that he is now, taking on people in World Cup and showing that he's and that you need more and more of that. So Tejan Buchanan might be heading in that direction. Some of the players will probably be, because of this World Cup, have an opportunity to step their pedigree into their club, and I think that will help out in the long run.
Morocco is ahead of Croatia in this group in terms of percentage of starting 11 players. And obviously Belgium's Morocco's ahead of Belgium as well.
Yeah,
that's actually really interesting. I didn't realize they'll be ahead of Belgium. I can see maybe Croatia, but
I think it's one of those. Belgium has the most players with 100 caps. I think they have six players with more than 100 caps, so they have a lot of experience.
The geriatrics
which counts also in there when you take
too old to win the World Cup. I mean, Kevin told somebody that, just maybe not the guy that quoted him on it.
So Mehdi, if you think about it, though, for Belgium, they've got multiple players who play in Turkey now, right? Because Batshuayi and Miritins and guys that used to play in the Big Five leagues that don't. So I think that's what pulls them down below a Morocco.
Mehdi, you have a lot of Moroccans like born in the Netherlands, born in France, and you see sort of like a scattering across those Big Five leagues for the Moroccan squad. What's like a typical path? When you're a Moroccan manager, how are you recruiting? Where are you looking? And if you're a young Moroccan kid, like how do you dream and how do you make it?
I think the best players in Morocco, I'm talking about the youth level, like the front, and the 9 that just scored the second goal. There's better academies now, like much better than they used to be when I played back there. And the best ones move earlier. So you have that side of it. So that's one option. I think the other ones, if you think of as Ziyech or Hakimi, these guys are immigrated or second generation in Spain or in Holland. And they also make it, and down the line they have to decide, right? So Ziyech's decision not to play for Holland was a big one. Don't know if Hakimi would have ever made, probably not would have made Spain, but at the time maybe not. So there's always that time where those guys have to make a decision. And to be fair, when you think of breaking into the French national team it's always going to be, if you're not going to, it's really much more difficult to break it. There's another one.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of these guys, grew up in Europe.
They called it off.
Oh, really?
Free kick for Morocco that I now get to watch, knowing that it was scored and then it was called off.
He's still celebrating. They've already acknowledged on the field he didn't turn around.
Yeah, you see the player in the offside position in front. It's a really nice finish. Like,
I don't know who's offside.
I think it's the player in front of the goalkeeper.
The keeper's.
Yeah.
Off the second shot. Okay.
Yeah.
They slowed it down to the first kick, and it was.
Yeah, I think it's.
No one was off.
He's blocking the.
I think that goes back to my point about, I think with teams like Morocco, we have a lot of people speaking different languages and growing up in different cultures. The manager's jobs become so much more important about the group and the togetherness. And I think we've suffered the years and years of not getting that right. And when you don't, it's just get a bunch of individuals and you never can be successful. And I think he's done a decent job. Even Vahid, the last coach, has done a decent job of getting the group together and kind of trying to get them on the same page as much as possible.
2-1 Morocco, Canada, as you're seeing on the live scores there at the top. We have the live standings in Group F. Group E to come later today. That's the second round of games. Canada, we all know the situation. We just don't have to talk about it, Patrice. But we know the situation. Morocco would be through with a draw. They would be through with the draw. So even another goal for Canada would not be a dire situation for Morocco. It would make things a little bit more sweaty, a little more interesting. But right now, Belgium not showing much against Croatia. 0-0 in that game as well. Croatia.
Morocco just won Spain. They're trying to line themselves up in second.
Hey, got a little historical, some history.
Everyone takes the boat from Casablanca.
We're going back in time, baby.
Watch the game.
That's right. I mean, you can pick. We've been conquered by the Spanish, the Portuguese, the French. So second round will be interesting.
That just means that everybody wants what you have, right? Like something like that.
Circle of life. What comes around?
All right, we are at halftime of the Croatia-Belgium game. Scoreless there, waiting for the final whistle. At least on my television, we are for Morocco, Canada. The scoreline is 2-1 there. Get in the comment section, get in the chat, monitoring that as well. We got a lot of people from Morocco as well. I think that maybe they think they can watch the game here, but once they found you, Mehdi, they were sticking around. Got them in the comment section.
I think they're still looking for the channel.
You said it would be silent today. I can't imagine it is silent right now in Morocco. What, like hearing kids.
What I mean silent is you wouldn't see no one doing anything else. But
got you. Business is as usual is over.
This is it.
Yeah. Where are people watching? Like, what's if I'm in Marrakesh or wherever, where am I going to watch? Where are people going to gather?
Cafes, right? So everybody's culture there is people watch games in cafes. So even like a normal Champions League night, you'd see most people at cafes watching the games. So it's not as much of a bar scene as it is in the States, but you'd see everyone would set up in cafes and watch games.
Place to gather, have coffee, have tea.
Yeah.
2-1. Got to be happy right now. Morocco atop. Patrice, what do you make of that first half performance for Canada?
Well, it was okay. It took bad goal. I think that kind of killed the momentum. If the motivation is to get a point and you start off with giving the goal, that was tough. But Mehdi brought a good point where he asked if we played three midfielders, and you saw most of the rest of the half, Alfonso coming to become playmaker, which means nobody's able to dictate from central position, or center backs being able to push the ball forward and break the lines. So even though we got that goal, it didn't seem like we're threatening their goal that often. So it's an okay, but like I said, it's a learning curve because we are the fifth youngest group in the tournament, and most of these guys will be back or should be back in 3.5 years. So far, it's okay, but it could be better.
Who's the youngest team fielding the youngest lineups in the tournament, Patrice? Gosh,
actually, it's not the U.S. if I'm correct. You're second.
It is starting lineup.
Youngest
you go by starters.
You gotta be picky. Yeah, but you have one player who actually went to the World Cup. We had none.
One is more than zero. That is absolutely great. How are they perceiving this in Canada right now? Like, what's the public perception? Is there disappointment? Is it just like happiness of being on the stage?
I think the first game set a lot of hype because it was great because, like I said, my brother-in-law took his son out of school. Kids in school were shown the game. So it tells you to the degree where it reached, because this is things that we do for hockey when Canada's playing World Cup or Olympic gold medal. So in terms of the progress that is shown, that you see the importance of Canada being at the World Cup, it was fantastic. Now, having just lost 2-1 and everybody's like, what? We should have beaten Belgium. Belgium even themselves said they should have come out with a better result. Set us on a path going, okay, we should beat Croatia or get a draw and then beat Morocco. So I think the deception was more after the Croatia game, everybody went like back down to earth. Like, okay, we are good. We managed to do well to get there, but we're still not on that level. So it became a bit, we're not as good as we thought we were. But at the end of the day, the message is this is a learning curve because we are just now getting there. And what we need to do is use this so that we are consistently at the World Cup and competing in Concacaf, because we haven't won a Gold Cup since 2000. That's the only one. And that was on a coin toss from the group stage. So I think a lot of people are, confused where they maybe expected us to do the surprise. Well, this is, hey, we did well to get there. Now this group and the country has to be able to get there at not just being host, being there every 4 years and playing these types of teams every year, playing the top 20 teams in there so that we maintain the growth that's been learned from this game.
Really good news. Really good news coming out this week. Obviously, just rumors that Canada is working to get invited into Copa America, which with no qualifying, that would be huge. We saw Qatar.
Exactly.
Japan's been invited. That would be massive for Canada just to go and be in those environments and play teams of that level, because Nations League and Gold Cup are the only competitive. If we assume, which have we actually been told that the 3 host countries are all auto-qualified?
I don't think it's been told. It's just people assume since there'll be 48 teams that 3 could be invited freely. You could say.
So yeah, if that's the case, you don't have qualifying. So Nations League obviously helps and whatnot, but Copa America, I think U.S., Mexico, and Canada are probably all hoping to be able to go to Copa America.
Did Herdman make he's, as far as like a press practitioner, Patrice, he's pretty deft. Did he make a mistake with the "we're going to F Croatia" line?
Boo.
It's okay. I'm just asking. I'm just asking the question. Like, it's all good to get your team jacked up, but was that maybe a step too far, or does you think it not matter at all?
Yeah, to be honest, no. I think it matters. Look, Croatia is Croatia, but do you need to give them any more motivation? I don't think you needed to. Because after the Belgium game, my assumption is people had more respect for Canada. They can play, they can ball, so we got to watch out. But then you gave them that extra, what? Does he forget that we went to the final in 2018? I don't think he needed that. I think that was off script from what John Herdman has been used to, knowing that he's a good motivator. He plans every wording, the culture they set in. I think that was something he didn't you don't say, but in at least what I grew up in soccer, what coaches say in the locker room, they don't always say that in the media. We all heard Ferguson.
I think that might have gotten picked up in the huddle, right? I don't think he said that in a.
No, he said it in an interview. At the end of the game,
he got riled up. I think he got riled up, and then he repeated it in the pitch side interview.
He came out of the huddle and said, "I just told them."
Yeah, because you know what usually happens? You finish the game, you go to the media after the game, after being in the locker room. Now you were on the field. You just told them, "Let's go. We got this team." The next one, and then ask you, "What did you say to the players?" And he said exactly what he said.
No, see that? Yeah.
And that I think fueled. Like I said, Croatia was going. They're already very good, but do you need to fuel them more?
I think that's the one game that I think Canada will look back to, thinking we left something there. I think that's why I asked you like earlier in the game, like, would you press against Croatia? And I think it's 2 things. It's either he really believes that they are that good, or is a little naive.
I think the game against Belgium told us, look, we deserve to be there. But
for sure.
We all see now what we're watching, that Croatia is a much better ball-playing team than Belgium.
Of course.
Let's not lie. And now that's why I go, I don't know if you saw the Morocco game, because Morocco played a low block. They pressed.
I think Croatia, when you play against that midfield, it's really difficult to press unless you are a top pressing team and you're able to do it for that long. And again, they get a goal early and they press well for the early moments. But I think as the game goes, those 3 midfielders are almost unpressable.
Exactly. And the thing is, even when you've got them, Modric, Kovacic, because he's younger, they can still beat you off the dribble. That means they can unlock a situation that's tight. So, yeah, I think that game, the words, I just think you didn't need to fuel them, because they wanted to score 4. They wanted to score 5. They wanted to score 6, just to say, you know what? You're not at our level. We are set finalists. We are here. We've grown to be here. You just got here. Respect. You did well, but you respect who we are. And I don't think you needed to fuel them more. And you saw what happened. Even though you're trying to downplay it, it just became the narrative of the game.
Yeah. Canada, and it backfired, right? Like after the game, I think some players.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if you're a player and you know you didn't say it, it's the conversation. Everybody mentioned it. And the coach mentioned it to his players. Even though Modric doesn't need to be motivated more, he just says, you know what? Wait, I respect you got to the World Cup, but hey, I'm Ballon d'Or. We went to the finals. I'm going to show you what Champions League. I'm going to show you what the highest level is. you don't. It's just like Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you need to tell him, hey, Messi scored an extra goal? What are you going to do? You know that's going to rile him up, and he's going to try and go to score a goal, and usually he does it. So
can I just point this out? You use the bulletin board material to get a team ready to play and inspired out the first kick. Canada scored a minute into this game. Was Croatia not going to try and come back and win the game? Like, I get all of this convo, but I don't actually see it happen. Like, it didn't inspire Croatia to start intense. And at that point, they have to come back if they want to stay in the World Cup anyway. And then I would argue the 3 goals all came in the run of play, and it's not like they poured it on. Kamal Miller doesn't whiff on the ball to make it the 4th, and they tap it. It's a tap in. I get what you guys are saying. I don't think it was a good idea. Although my pushback has been Alphonso Davies missed a penalty in the first game. No one talked about it until after the Croatia game because the only conversation was John Herdman. No one talked about whether or not Canada was good enough to play at the level. All it was compliments about how good they were and the John Herdman stuff. And for a coach, what better could he give Alphonso Davies than taking that pressure off? So I'm just throwing that stuff out there.
I believe he went off script because
I agree, but I'm just saying in terms of the way it worked out, everyone's saying they lost to Croatia because he said this, but they went up 1-0.
I think the goal is because nobody expected for Canada to rock Belgium. They expected Belgium to win. They expected Belgium to possess and dominate. They didn't expect Canada to actually have a chance to win it. So even if the penalty missed it, the conversation was, I know I read French media, they were all like, wow, Canada can play. Canada should have come out with at least a point, even if 3. So the narrative of the game would have been that people said, why did Alphonso shoot? He only had 2 penalties taken before. Jonathan David is the natural shooter at his club. I think the emotions was there. They asked him the question, and he's like, you know what? I think we can F Croatia. That was just a pure emotion for somebody who's usually very methodical.
And very intentional. Yeah. That's why it was a little surprising for me. It felt like he's very sort of like he's moving the pieces around. He knows what he's going to say, when he's going to say it, why he's going to say it publicly. Either way, let's take a look at these brackets here as we consider what's going to happen in Group F, Group E later on today. Here are the highlights, by the way. Not a moment to remember for Borjan. Certainly not for Victoria either. Tough Derziech. Yeah, that's an easy one for him. That's an easy one. Finds the corner. Puts Morocco up 1-0. They would go up 2-1. Here's the second. Nice ball in that right channel. Absolutely slammed home by Nesri. Grade this performance so far, Mehdi. How would you grade it as a coach?
I think he's been really, really smart in a way that he decides where to set the pressure from. I think it's easy to almost start feeling yourself a little bit in the last 2 games. Say, oh, you know what, we're going to go crazy when I press. I think what he's realized is they're much better in the block because they're not so good. The back line is not so good defensively, especially with Payson behind them. And I think that gives them the platform to be solid. And then when they win the ball, they can play on the break. And I think this is what Nasiri can bring to the team. He hasn't for a while. But on the break, he can attack space. Ziyech 1v1 against Sam, and I love Sam. He can still make something happen, right? Like they have these moments. Boufal can go one-on-one, and he's tough on the dribble, especially once he gets inside the box. I think those are the moments that Morocco played for all tournament. And that's what has made them also solid in terms of giving up chances. So performance has been great. I think you go into the 3rd game and you go 2-0 up in whatever 15, 20 minutes. I think that I definitely didn't expect that.
What do you want to see from Canada second half, Dave?
I'd love for them to get a result at the World Cup and make history. I do think, though, the one thing that Morocco has done really well at this World Cup, especially against Croatia and Belgium, is what Mehdi talked about, is like sitting a little deeper, but when they press and trap and go, it's full intensity and with direction. And I think that's one of those things where Canada has had moments where they've been playing open or pressing, but you haven't seen the intentionality, especially when they win the ball back, of being direct towards goal and taking your opportunities. So I'd love to see that from Canada to try and put Morocco under pressure, who are scrambling. And what we've seen so far over the last 3 days, teams playing for ties have struggled. Like it's a mindset that a lot of players struggle with because you're trained from age 6 on to do everything to win a game. And so Morocco might end up in that weird in-between place of the result favors us. How do we hang on? For Canada, you can open up and go for it. When you talk about personnel, by the way, put Ismail Kone on the field. The kid's incredible. He's a difference maker, both good and bad. You're losing 2-1. You're trying to get a result. Like, that's the type of person. And you talk about the future. He can help you today, but it's also building towards the next 4 years.
So you see here in the bracket here, Netherlands, U.S. of course, Saturday. Another watch along for that one. Make sure you're tuning
Patrice,
in
who's
here.
in that top left? Can you see that bracket?
Yeah. Gosh, I'm squinting here. Maybe just go full screen, Patrice, in case you can't see.
I can't see.
Oh, okay. I'm making sure.
Small.
Argentina, Australia as well. You have England taking on Senegal, France, and Poland. And then Morocco currently in that spot for the F1. They could go into potentially F2 where you see Croatia on the other side of the bracket. E2 is either going to be
Germany,
well, I guess
Spain, or Japan. Or
I guess
Germany,
it could be
Japan,
anybody.
or
It could
Costa
still be
Rica.
anybody within that group, technically. Who would you want if you, let's just say, in a hypothetical world where we're not counting results, and I know you don't do that, Mehdi, but who would you want to see Morocco take on in the round of 16?
What is that question?
Not Spain, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's obviously Costa Rica, as much as we all respect Concacaf.
Fair.
Anywhere else,
Obviously the team that lost by 7 goals.
Spain is no joke.
We are off
Listen,
and running in both these games, by the way. Second half's underway in Group F here.
Morocco, Costa Rica, it's a rivalry and a history as old as time.
Yeah, historic.
Great.
He hasn't subbed anybody.
Mehdi, did you ever have a chance to ever like conversations called in, or did you feel like you were out of sight, out of mind, sort of in MLS from Morocco?
I think when I played in MLS, I think it was the early days of MLS. I think we just talked about it now about the squad for Morocco always plays in Europe, so there was always that not disadvantage, but advantage to the guys playing in Europe and getting seen week in and week out. I think that's probably part of it. I think playing in MLS now versus when I did and when I had when I was in good form is totally different. I think you see now MLS guys, of course, playing for the Almada came on yesterday for Argentina, which is incredible. So it's changed.
Do we think that whoever wins this game gets Rida Zouhir to commit to their national team? Is that what's on the table?
How good is he, Pat?
He's a good player. Yeah, he's got a lot of personality. I think the question was between him and Ismail Kone, who's going to step forward, if you could say, because they're both around the same age. But he's got different qualities, a good shot, good passer, very emotional. So maybe that plays up and down in terms of his consistency. And but yeah, he's the next one hopefully up and coming in terms of potential to do something as a young player from the academy and moving on to the first team. So now it's for him to shine. Ismail did it. Now maybe that'll stir him on to believe that he can do the same thing in the following season, especially that it seems like Ismail should be leaving. So now that player's out. The competition is you and fighting for spots in the midfield.
If you don't know who we're talking about here, Rida Zouhir, he's a 19-year-old. Born in Montreal, but Moroccan as well, and has been called up for both youth national teams here in the last year or so. I think all in this last year, actually.
Yeah, exactly. All in the last year.
So 7 appearances for Montreal so far, 5 this year. A couple in the Canadian Cup as well, but talented young midfielder.
It's good to see the Montreal Academy, getting the reward for the youth academy work they've done. I think I've played them, of course, when I was in the academy in New York for years, and it's always been a tough game. They always had a style of play. They always were, organized, and it's nice to see guys like Kone, and hopefully Reda also makes a step down the line.
By the way, Lukaku on at halftime for Belgium.
Yeah, almost scored here early on. Morocco building right now in the Canadian half. These are big moments for Canada on the break.
Canada hasn't made any subs, so hopefully we'll see a tactical adjustment.
What have you seen on the youth level, Mehdi? Not to get us too distracted, but I am curious. Over all these years within the academies, we see this U.S. team, and a number of those guys came up through this academy structure. Same thing for Canada, obviously. What have you seen sort of in the development of young players?
It's night and day. I think the academy, the last 10 years probably, and more so maybe the last 5-6 has been really competitive. I think they're trying to make the games program as more more competitive, as competitive as they can make it, and it's not easy, right? Because the US is so big. So how do you get for example, in the East Coast, and we deal with this, how do you get, and maybe we are more lucky than they are in the West Coast, but we can play a Red Bull, we can play a DC United, we can play a Philly, we can play in New England, but other than that, there's not so many competitive games for the top talent, the top American talent. And I think they've done a good job of setting up these, whether it's GA Cups and these tournaments where you can get the best teams to play each other. And I think there's only one way to get the best, right? Is to play each other, like Pat, said about Davies earlier at Bayern, right? So the more these guys play each other, the better you're gonna get the level of everyone to kind of push on. And I think it's been good. I think now with the MLS Next, and you have a lot of, hopefully as we move forward, a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-olds playing regularly. And I think that would be a game changer in terms of, as it is now, right? There's a lot of Americans. There's a good reputation for young American players in Europe. You can see teams taking risks and jumping on them even earlier and earlier. So I think it's only going to get better. I think the young American will have better chances now and well respected in the biggest leagues. And I think by 2026, I think US, sorry, Pat, maybe Canada as well, will have one of the better squads in the World Cup.
That's one of the fun things about this convo, but I think is funny around this World Cup, right? A lot of people tune in just to the highest level or just to the World Cup, and it's like, it's amazing, right? The US has this, the youngest starting 11 at this World Cup. Canada, as Patrice said, 5th youngest team. And everyone's like, oh, Musa, McKennie, Adams for the next 10 years. And it's like, yeah, it could be. Also, Obed Vargas just played 75 minutes in a CCL final, and Jack McGlynn is putting up numbers we've never seen before for a teenager. And 120 kids that are as talented that I don't know. And, that's what's exciting, as Mehdi says, is it's night and day in terms of the pipeline and the opportunity. The whole system is not just built around, can we get the best 16 kids into residency and get them through and be the 16 players in the national team? It's 500 rolls at the dice. And, it's up to a lot of those players at that point, which ones are going to elevate and take their game to the next level. Zuhair and Ismail Kone would have probably been pushed into the national team 10 years ago to get them a chance and try and stir them into being the players they could be. Now they have to earn those spots. So that's what's really exciting.
And by the way, it's not just 30 MLS environments, which, as Mehdi knows and Patrice knows and we all know, didn't exist certainly in the past and not at the level they do now. It's many more as terms of, you said MLS Next Pro, but USL Championship, USL League One, just the opportunities for players across the country growing and growing. So Croatia pushing Belgium right now. Some big opportunities. Courtois to make a big save. It seems like Morocco's taken more of that. They've moved that line of confrontation back a little bit.
I think they're forced to, right? I think it's, again, back to the Canada is really free. I think as the game goes on, there's the anxiety and the nerves. And I think you'll see that line going probably a little bit deeper and deeper as the game goes. I think what they have to do better is when they are in possession to spend, time with the ball, so they can rest with the ball, use the time with it to kind of almost slow the game down, take the sting out of it. And of course, as soon as they lose it, they're always gonna end up in that low mid block. And I think it's how good is Canada? The question is gonna be, how good is Canada in the final third with possession?
A lot to play for here. I mean, obviously getting through to the knockout round is sort of the big obvious headline here, but as Mehdi alluded to earlier, it seems like Spain is almost certainly, very likely, going to win Group E. You do not want to get Spain in the round of 16. So finishing atop this group is strategically a pretty big prize for whoever is able to get it done. It seems like right now, based on results and based on performances, that will be either Morocco or Croatia. But after yesterday, I know better than to bet on literally anything. That was absurd, man. I felt like my insides were melting watching that. High levels of drama.
It was the moment when it took the weird, like when Poland and Argentina both recognized that they were just going to keep the game the same, and then all eyes shift to Mexico. That was the weirdest moment, I think, of the day.
Do we see Tata back in MLS? What do you guys think? Could we see that?
Could be. He did well when he was in Atlanta, so can't lie. He did help to build the team also, so now knowing to go in the market that's relatively similar to what Atlanta offered at the time.
I was going to say, that's the challenge, I think, is what market can offer that, either in terms of sort of the expenditure that I think that he would be looking for on players or influence on roster.
Sounds like San Diego.
Sounds like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be.
Got to get an expansion team first, but
I don't know if Tata is made for an expansion team. I think he needs the big boys, and I think he's, for the places he's been, right, like Barcelona. Even when he was at Atlanta, that was a squad, right? Like that started lineup with Almiron and Barco, right? Like I think that, and he has the knack for managing those guys, and I think that is his genius. And how does he find a club that's willing to get those kinds of players?
Trying to think what clubs could be in a category like that might need that at some point here.
I think Galaxy would be the big one. They've shifted away from it somewhat, but you still have.
I could see Chicago potentially being a team that's willing to do things like that.
Yeah, with the new owner, but I guess the new ownership and their new ways, you believe that they dive into the deeper pockets, if you could say.
We keep saying that, but Chicago, the only player they've spent on is a guy who came through Basel, which is their entire front office, right? Like, they haven't actually gone out and spent big on a big name.
No, that's what I mean. Do you see Chicago actually going out and saying, hey, you know what, we're going to get Tata and get a bunch of spend like tens of millions of dollars on some prominent talent that are prominent
national team player or something.
Pat, you've been in the league for a long time. Does that model, do you think, work anymore? Of course, you can do it with the young, expensive ones like an Almiron or a Barco, but can you do it with a Shaqiri, an Insigne, like a Bernardes? Like, can you?
I think the beauty of the league now is you have different forms of ways of building your team, and none confirm that it is right or wrong, because Atlanta did it. The thing is,
but Atlanta did it with those guys, and they were young, though.
No, but I mean, the thing is, you can spend money, but it's to sustain success, because you might get it for 2-3 years. Look at Atlanta; you might get it for 2-3 years, and then suddenly, people expect you now to be top 3, but you're not the top 3 team right now because you don't have that main. Even though you spend money on the players they have right now, And Toronto just decided, like, you know what, we're going to go back like 2015 or 2014 and spend money on some guys. Those are the teams that are doing it. Those are the markets. But then you really have Montreal, I guess yourselves too, because the New York City FC was David Villa, Frank Lampard decided to build a philosophy of playing internally, and certain teams are jumping into that. I still believe it's doable spending money, but you have to spend it right. And I think most teams now are getting their scouting and doing it a little bit better, if you could say. They can't just spend $15 million. They want to have the proper teams out there, and because now teams have their real identity, and they seem to be sticking to it for longer term instead of just spending the money.
Oh my God, Belgium!
Wiebe, what do you
Lukaku, Belgium. Lukaku off the post, a huge save for Croatia preceding that. By the way, there's a scenario here, and I bring it up just to hopefully manifest it. If Morocco scores and Croatia scores, they would be tied on points. They would be tied on goal differential. They would be tied on goals scored. They would be tied on yellow cards, and we could have a drawing of lots. Just throwing that out there.
So what happens next?
Their head-to-head is a draw too. So
yeah,
so it goes to the bookings.
Well, they're tied on yellow cards, Patrice. So then it would go to. Then I think it would go to drawing of lots. Yeah, it would.
Trivia. Then it goes to trivia.
But it would also.
I like that. That's a good idea. We should go to trivia.
Pick the captain trivia question.
Yeah. All right. Come on out here. It's like, all right, it's Jeopardy. How many points are you willing to? How many points are willing to wager right now?
By the way, Canada, I don't know if you've seen it, but they're about to make some subs, or they've made.
I think Canada scores. I think Canada.
They're making 2 subs.
Yeah, I think Canada
will bring something different to the table.
Jonathan David in as well.
Yeah, with the Tiba and Jonathan David, that's a significant. And I think something to prove also for him, Jonathan David, coming into this game. Tiba 101 caps for Canada. So, that's going to be probably Alfonso will be able to reach it and beat him.
You would think Jonathan David would have that opportunity as well, no?
Yeah, but both of them are good age, and you see them being in the national team for the next decade or so. They're only 22.
Go! Oh! Lukaku, free header, no goalkeeper at the penalty spot, heads it over.
Jeez.
Might have been out of bounds before the cross. Either way, he's still in complete disbelief. I don't know. De Bruyne, it was a little deflected cross.
No, actually,
ball was out. That ball was out. They would have taken it back.
Malcone is in the game also.
Let's go, Kone.
What's the best case scenario for Ismail Kone as far as his future?
Right now, there's interest for him from Championship, and I think from Germany also. He needs, like we were mentioning, he needs to take that next step for himself in his career, but also for the national team, where he's at the level of, I'm not saying at a level of play, but in terms of him as a player, but where Alfonso was 2-3 years ago, where Jonathan was 2-3 years ago, and slowly moving forward in terms of his football competitiveness on a daily basis. And also for him, it's moving away from home. So those are adaptation phases. It grows him as a player, and so that. Now, potentially, we're looking at the guy who should be in the middle of the park for Canada for the next few years. And now he needs to be playing at the level also that allows him to play regular football and at the highest level possible.
I know you want a young player to get minutes and be in the right situation. And I think you have to really judge who's in a team, what the coach is, what the style is. It just seems from the macro point of view, pretty wild the way Kone's performed over the last 2 weeks, playing at high levels in internationals against Japan, and then this World Cup, that the championship is where his
here's my thing about the championship, and I think we almost kind of. So, for example, question maybe Pat, you know this. Can Kone, and the thing about the championship is totally different than a Montreal. There's not going to be in possession. It's not the ball's really going to be on the ground. Whereas what team will it be in the championship? I think is a number one.
No, for me, is
he better off in a France, a Belgium for a couple of years, maybe Holland, even Germany?
Me personally, I would see him in Germany because there's a lot of young players. They want the young players to play, because the factor is he might be going, and who knows if it's a championship team. But if it's a championship team fighting for promotion, because now for him the thing is he's going to make that move, but it's also minutes. Because even though they're going to spend the money on you, or you're going to be regularly playing soccer or football and winning your spot. Because as they say here in Montreal, his name is established. He could be a starter for the next 2-3 years. I can't say easily, but he would be. Now you're going to championship. I would see him in a German league or a Dutch league where his style of soccer would allow him to play regularly and grow and then make your name. You all know how it is. You make your name and you move to a bigger league. If I take Christian Pulisic, he left early, went to Dortmund. Nobody really, but you guys knew he was, but in the world stage, they didn't know he was until he shined at Dortmund and allowed him to move at Chelsea. But now he's a much more mature player, even though he's young, after the last 5 years of growing. And that's what I see for Ismail Kone. But then at the end of the day, do you say no?
But this is my point. Is I think you have, and I've seen it go wrong too many times. Like you have to pick the right place, and maybe it's not the best place in terms of maybe it's a little bit less money, maybe it's a little bit less.
Yeah, you have to see the philosophy, the style.
But then you got to think about it in long term, because you can go to a big team tomorrow. Because he can land in a big team tomorrow, but then he may not play, or maybe they don't play his style of play, and then his career will definitely turn. Hopefully not, but turn the wrong way. But
the rumor is, I was just going to add, the rumor that we've heard, by the way, is Sheffield United, who are second in the championship right now, and they do, as you remember from the Premier League, they do sort of play in a similar setup, the 3-5-2 as Montreal did, but that's the only specific team that's been connected recently.
The funny thing is that I was chatting with a friend is right now in the world of football, players are actually starting to think, or you assume they're thinking to, is it the right place for me to go in terms of my skill set? Because before you would just go because it's the Premier League or it's this type of league because they're going to pay you. They've paid the club for a certain amount. But now it's going, if I go there, is it the right type of team for me? Right. There's Gakpo from Holland now with PSV. Tons of teams are after him. They're talking about a 50 million transfer fee. But the way he was playing at PSV, what club suits him to be able to express himself the same, or at least grow in the same way? Well, going somewhere, they don't play the same style, and then you end up being on the bench, and then you lose a year or two of not playing or playing less, and then you might lose your spot. Ricardo Pepi. I'm not saying he made a move.
There's many.
He went to Germany. It's a big move. Was it the right club for him? Who knows? And now being in Holland, he got some minutes to play, which is surprising. He was performing and didn't get picked. But all of that seems to now play in the conversation. Is it the right place to go for my style of soccer or my skill set? Which before people would say, I'm going. It's the big league or it's a big move. And now you're thinking, if you have the choice. And let's not forget Tejan Buchanan. He had opportunities. He chose to go to Club Brugge. There were other teams that were out there, and maybe he could have gone to a bigger league. And he chose to go there because, I guess, for his adaptation and phase of coming into Europe and making the right move to make the next right move also.
We got some highlights here we can show you. Lukaku had a miss off the post. It's still 0-0 between Croatia and Belgium. Morocco 2, Canada 1 as well. We have the live standings there on the upper left for you. This is a huge chance. Belgium didn't get through, how much of a disaster is this? Conversations have already started on Twitter, and depending on who you believe, maybe in the camp as well.
Either way,
wow,
it's going to be the last World Cup moment.
Yeah,
it's either going to be Kevin De Bruyne or Luka Modric, right? Whatever happens over the next 23 minutes is going to be a massive moment in the history of the game. But shout out to Morocco for making it happen. Can't roll over for the big names.
And by the way, there is a Montrealer playing for Morocco. He's in gold.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Bono.
He's born
Born in
I can't say
Montreal.
raised, but he's born in Montreal. He got raised in Morocco and then made his way to La Liga and to the Moroccan national team.
He was actually, wasn't he keeper of the year in La Liga last year?
Yes, exactly.
So, forgot he's born in Montreal.
Yeah, don't worry. I didn't know too. So Montreal put that in effect. But it's nice, then you discover players that, there's a lot of dual national players in this tournament. Probably the World Cup with the most dual national players. So that could have played for another country.
Mehdi, we've talked a lot about the Montreal sort of club side of things, and obviously because of Canada, but it occurs to me as we talk about sort of the progression of teams and style within MLS. You played for NYCFC, then immediately went into sort of the coaching side. What have you seen from sort of within the club over these last almost 10 years now of development and change, and of sort of a refining of the ideas behind which the club is going to build itself?
You're talking about New York, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest shift, and we talked about a little bit earlier, is can you do it with the big star? I think initially the first few years, right, we're trying to get the name out, the new franchise, David Villa, the Lampard, and I think after year 2, it took a drastic change, right, and it's about going younger, going about maybe young talented players that can not only perform in MLS, hopefully go beyond that, and I think the one piece about our club is the style of play, and the game model doesn't change for any one coach. So whether it's Patrick, Dome, Nick, Ronnie, they've all gonna try to play. The club has a style of play, and it's whoever comes in has to play that style of play. So and Montreal, I think now is no different. Red Bull is no different. So I think what's happening in MLS, you have a lot of teams now have an identity, and we definitely do have ours, and we believe in it, and it's thought from the young players in the academy. And I think if you do that work, if you stick to it, and if you get, of course, talented young kids, then we have a chance with the Gio Reynas and Scalise. Oh, goal! I think it might have crossed the line, man.
No, but they have the technology. So
Canada on the corner kick. Of course, I'm behind. Anytime Mehdi says goal or chance,
goal line technology would have confirmed the goal.
They can tell us who's offside by the sliver of an arm.
If it's not, it's
Atiba.
Wow, it looks in. On the bounce, it looks in.
Oh, is it Atiba?
Wow.
Come on.
Christina, welcome.
Well,
Tell us
hi.
what's going on here.
Yeah, no, ball did not fully cross the line. I mean, we all kind of know it, right? It hits the ground. These are the easier ones when it's a close. We have goal line technology here in the World Cup, GLT, which is connected to the referee's watch, which if it does fully cross, we would know. There's more than enough cameras in the World Cup that would tell us whether it fully crossed, and it did not. So good no call by the officials. And obviously, if it did, we'd have GLT and VAR to back up both of those.
All right. Thank you, Christina. As always, I would tell people a test you can do at home is to put a line on the ground and line a ball up over it, and there will be daylight, so to speak, even when that sphere is over the line still. So that one was touching the line. No goal for Canada there. Still 2-1 Morocco. As it stands, they would win the group here and take on the second-place team in Group E. We will see who wins that group later on.
I think they should have given the goal. Come on.
I mean, look, I
would have said the same thing, guys.
Timothy Weah scored as well, I would say, against Iran. And
listen, I was reading a Ghanaian article yesterday or today talking about the Suarez play from 2010, and they made a great point, which was, as mad as they are at Suarez, just give the goal. England won a World Cup on a ball that didn't cross the line. Italy won a World Cup getting a PK that clearly wasn't a PK. It happens all the time. Just give it. And you know what? I like that argument, Kana.
Meanwhile, Suarez was asked about this as well, and Suarez said, "It's not my fault they didn't."
Well.
Yeah, it's not my fault they didn't make the PK.
Of all the things Suarez has done, that one is so low on the list of like, you can think that it's cheating or bad or whatever. But yeah,
I
thought Ghana Ronaldo penalty more because that was
weak.
Every single goal in that game
Hella
was
weak.
Yeah, but I gotta go
Portugal.
back because it's true. It's a weak penalty, but they called a foul on him where he scored in the first half, where there was no foul. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember where he pushed off with with his arm,
British
and the
goal,
guy
yeah.
was pushing off his arm, fell, he scores.
So what are you saying? If you get your goal disallowed, you just get another one.
Yeah, exactly. So, AKA
Hey, look,
Canada goal right
you know,
here.
the scales of justice, they've got to equal out, right?
Exactly. It just
The scales of justice always fall equal unless Germany or Italy is involved, and then
And-
they win every time.
I don't think we got to talk about scales of justice with some of the people we're talking about here, so we'll let that one go. 75 minutes in, both these games right now, as I said, Morocco would top Group F, which would be a huge accomplishment for them. This would be their 4th World Cup win, I think. Is that right?
I know it beat Scotland in '98. I don't know what the '86
I
results
think a
are.
1 win in '86.
'94. I don't think there's 1 win. I think in '94. Yeah, probably 3. Not.
So I think
Before
the
this,
third was. I think
you
the
don't need
third
to
was
look at this.
Belgium. So you had a win, 1 win, 2 draws, and a loss in '86. You had 1 win in '98, but they didn't get out of the group. And then, other than that, there were no wins in '70, no wins in '94, and no wins in 2018. So this would be the 4th win, if it holds,
If it holds.
for Morocco at a World
The more you
Cup.
keep talking about them topping the group, the more chances Canada gets.
All right, I'll
Mehdi,
I'll keep it down. I'll keep it down, Mehdi.
I was in the building in Russia for the Iran game to open things up, and they were so good. And it was not just this that they lost that game. And I was in the Morocco fan section, and the Iranian fans were great. I was happy for them. But I definitely left the 2018 World Cup thinking Morocco was one of the teams that did not get exactly what they deserved over the course of the 3 games.
Yeah, it's a tough tournament results-wise for sure. But that was the coach from Saudi Arabia. That's the guy that crossed over, and he pressed really high, played pretty open, and he was kind of going back to maybe a little bit naive. And they played well at times, but I don't think you can do that against the top teams.
Subs coming here for Morocco.
The issue with that,
Canada, by the way.
and that's the nature of a World Cup, and it's sort of what happened in Canada. And this one was, and in a different way. I think he was right in that he needed 3 points against Iran to open up the World Cup. Right?
Yeah.
And so you had to press.
Yeah, in that game, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Now, in the end, Iran, after winning, shut things down, got results. 1 point in the first game probably would have kept Morocco alive with a chance to go through. You don't know that coming into it. And that's one of the parts that make the World Cup really hard. And people are asking, like, what could Canada have done differently? And it's like, well, if they were in a group with Saudi Arabia, Poland, and Argentina, I think there's a decent chance Canada would be going through today. Right. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about the draw and the quality of teams you're going against.
Right.
Yes, exactly. If I talk for a certain other country.
Talking about us? Someone had to beat Iran. Morocco didn't do it last time. Come on.
Hey, USA, they deserved what they had. They performed well. Unfortunately, they performed 1 half at a time, but they performed well. Then they need a top score. Had they had Jonathan David, they probably would have had an easier finish in the group, though. But it's going to be a nice game against the Netherlands.
We would take Jonathan David, Patrice.
Oh, I'm pretty
no
sure.
doubt about
I'm pretty
that.
sure you would take him. But
I would take
Netherlands is a good draw. I'm telling you, that's a good draw for USA.
I agree. I think that's
because you're playing against a team who plays open football, which is the type of football Greg Berhalter tries to play, want to play, and they're, I can't say they're not as menacing as other teams, even though Memphis Depay is back and he's a good player. You could see it against Qatar, the way he moves, he creates havoc. But
I think
it's a good draw, I feel, for the USA in the round of 16.
Morocco just went to a back 5. This line is just getting deeper.
Yeah, this line is just getting thicker, more and more. They're making a wall.
Bus is in.
This is where I find it interesting for Canada. They kept the 3 at the back. Well, you're dying to go to get the results. Could have put an extra midfielder or an extra forward there. And like I said, you could drop Atiba to play a little bit more at the back. Hey, Mehdi, I had a question because you guys have one of my favorite players at NYCFC, which is Maxi Morales. Because he's another ageless player, and he runs. It's not like he just stands there. He does actually do a lot of running. How is it? How is he as a player, but just generally, maybe as a leader, a technical leader?
He's of course he's been class for us the last since he's been in the club, but he's not a very vocal leader. I think he likes to do his things with the ball. He wants to show his leadership in his performance, in the way he carries himself, even in training. I think he's someone that just has fun, like he loves playing. And you can see it with his creativity, right? Like when things are tough, when the games are close, I think he comes alive and he wants to solve the problems. And like you said, and I think it becomes special when you have the work rate and the fight, and he does have it at this age. It's an interesting fact is like early on in the season when we just got back again, numbers wise, like his running numbers were still top 2, top 3 in the starting lineup, which is incredible for someone that age.
Yeah, he reminds me of Federico Higuain. They're ageless in terms of even physically. They cover ground. They maybe not as fast as before, quick, but they still move. He
can see it pass. I think the one thing with him is if you can get the front line moving when he receives, he can find them.
Yeah, you give him mobility, you give him moving pieces, he'll find them. So it's a joy to watch when I watch him, and I knew
he has a knack for
it's going to be tough for Montreal because you have players like him who can find that final pass, find that final decision, and you have the other two. I'm not gonna lie, the other two are very creative. Also, they're younger, but they're the Brazilian.
Yeah,
and
they had good games, right? Like that. I think that game is been kind of cooking all season, right? It's gonna happen in the playoffs at some point, and to be honest with you, that was one of my most enjoyable games because I love the way Montreal plays. I'm not saying that because you guys are here, but I rate the coach because he has, like, talk about identity and style of playing. He has it, and I think the beauty about the club is they stuck with him when things weren't going well. And when you do that and you work at it for years, eventually, of course, they end up where they end up because of their work, because of the belief that what they're doing is the right way. And when you get the group to do that, eventually they play some of the best football in the league.
All right, what would a draw mean for Canada here, Patrice? Like if they were able to get a result,
said, the mindset is to better 86, to come out with something saying, you get a draw, you get a point. You could always say, you know what, we were maybe a bit naive versus Belgium, but we could have gone to the next round. That's a big thing for this group, is setting new records. Because they're the country that scored the most goals in a calendar year with 53. They've scored the most goals in Concacaf. They scored a goal finally in World Cup. So getting that first point would be great to push the barrier. If one thing John Herman keeps saying is, trying to make history, always trying to make a new page and pushing the standards further and further so that for the next years, they know what they have to attain and surpass. And you're staying in the legend books, being the group that scored the first goal and took the first points.
Meanwhile, we won't talk about what could or could not happen for Morocco. We want Mehdi to be in the best
never
possible
even heard of that
mental space that he can be in.
Top of the group.
FC, I see that he's tense. Maybe talking about his club.
My palms are sweating now. No, but I actually just flipped to the Croatia, and the Croatia looks like they're also playing a back five. They're trying to get through.
Yeah, they also just had a sliding touch on a ball over the top that went straight back to the keeper's hands. And
I mean, if they lose, if Belgium finds a goal here, that's it. The Belgium would move on. So
Hazard coming on.
Yeah.
That's not a bad sub.
Say what we want about Hazard, but he would start for all these teams in this group.
Definitely.
Easy.
He's just lagging rhythm and lagging confidence because at Madrid he doesn't
Injuries.
play on a regular basis, but he's a top level player. He was Premier League Player of the Year in 2017.
Class.
Patrice, 2017 is a long time ago.
was
5
gonna say.
years.
Doesn't matter. Quality.
Mehdi was almost playing in 2017.
Hey, Modric was Ballon d'Or in 2018.
True.
Still playing quality is quality. Now, still maintain your quality. That's another story. That's then Hazard's situation.
I think what's tough for Hazard is that speed, that burst. That was a major part of what he was elite at, right? Where for Modric, it's ground coverage and his vision. But I agree with you. Hazard would play for every team. The thing is, other teams would build around Hazard, right? You'd put him as a 10. You'd protect him with other center mids. You give him runners like you guys talked about with Maxi. For Belgium, they have De Bruyne. They have Lukaku.
He has that thing in the final third that, let's say, take Canada, you would need a player like that can unlock certain tight situations because he can take on somebody just from a quick movement and able to final pass, able to shot. And those are the types of players everybody wants because when games are tight like that, the difference makers, they're the ones who pull something off that the game doesn't expect, that you didn't plan.
Hazard's going to score in about 2 minutes now, just to prove Patrice right.
Yeah, but he said it himself. I know I follow a bit the French media and the Belgian media where he knows people have.
Oh my gosh, Belgium!
They took a goal.
Oh, deflected off Lukaku just wide.
Again?
I don't think he knew much about it. But it was
just everything was getting deflected off of him.
Yeah.
All he needs is one, man. All he needs is one.
I know.
Munier with the volley into the middle of the box, and Lukaku just can't touch it on frame. That's brutal.
Come on.
We have, depending on stoppage time, which could extend this significantly, we are sitting with Morocco atop Group F, 7 points from 3 games, 2 wins, and a draw would be an incredible group stage for them. Don't know what the...
I'm going to let Mehdi live this one. Live it too.
Are you that ahead of me?
Hey guys, I don't know.
He's ahead of me too because I haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
You'll see it's coming up.
Oh wow. Oh. Okay.
I'm waiting for
It's
something.
because he's from Montreal, Patrice.
Jesus.
Yeah, it plays with fire.
Guys like building out of the back, chesting the ball down, putting,
Yeah. See, this is the modern goalkeeper, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good. He knew the whole time.
There's a lot of people in Moroccan cafes or anywhere in Moroccan where the heart just stopped for a second.
Doing this motion right here.
I was like, "Yeah, give me another coffee."
They just showed a shot of Munier, who subbed out. He just sitting against the board.
It's exhausted. Do you guys remember the Cristiano Ronaldo after the Ghana game when they almost got scored on?
Yeah.
That's the type of oh my God, what could have happened?
That would have been disastrous for Portugal.
Oh, and kudos to Ghana because we're talking about teams that play, but Ghana, for a very unexperienced team, they're playing very well.
If not for a soft penalty, they tied the game.
Exactly.
They're going to get tested tomorrow because Uruguay in a must-win game.
Yeah.
At this stage of a World Cup, they are
a little bit disappointed with Uruguay, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like the experience on their side.
Yeah, Uruguay's one of those where the talent's there.
Yeah.
They've never really opened up the game, and you thought they would this time, and instead they've gone in the other direction.
And it's not like they looked good in any one game, you know? I think that's the other thing. It's just look like they're trying to survive, and hopefully one of the nines makes something happen.
I mean, they man-marked João Felix for like half that
Belgium
game.
cross in. Oh my God, Lukaku!
No way. Again.
I mean, this is cruel. It just hit him in the chest.
Oh, they're already in
a wide open net. It just hit him in the chest. It like caught him in a in between spot, I guess.
Hey, by the way,
oh my God, Lukaku!
I guess we're gonna have to prepare players to play 100 minutes, because it just seems like extra time has been 8, 9, 10 minutes every game.
I
mean, the coaches complain, the more additional, like they're complaining about how many games these guys play now, and it's ridiculous, and the speed is faster than it's ever been, and then you add 10 minutes in every game.
They're gonna say, there's 5 subs, but anyway, it's still 10 extra minutes.
I think Lukaku doesn't read the ball whether or not Lovren's going to get a touch, and it just hits him in the chest.
Took him by surprise, yeah,
because Lovren is right in front of him and almost gets that touch. I think he's trying to wait to react. He puts his head down there. That's a goal. That is brutal. I'm sure people will react to it well, though, and be really good to a guy who's one of the best players in the world.
Good, man.
As I say, there's too many minutes. They just put 4.
Christina's explained it to us, Patrice. They're going back. They started really extreme, realized it was a bit too much too soon, and now the referees are getting the directives to move back. And, Christina, don't worry, I got you. And the more experienced referees have the whole tournament called it the way they've always called it. It was the less experienced referees who listened. Maybe too much. Come on, Richie.
Christina says that Dave nailed it.
Yes. Thank you, Christina. Also, Jason DeVos with a big touch on the sideline.
Oh, yeah. Legend.
Trouble.
Oh, bringing up the big man.
I don't even. Is that the Belgium-Croatia game?
Yeah. Belgium had another chance for a tap. Tap-in's extreme, but inside the 6. But you're good anyway, Mehdi. Morocco wins, they're through.
Yeah, but it's not over.
Sure. If Milan gets a goal over Atiba.
This is not good. Oh, luckily we got Alfonso. The man is just born blessed with speed.
Wow, you're so far ahead of me. I just saw the corner get taken. Milan to curl one in.
Oh, my God. You are way ahead, Pat.
Yeah,
he's ridiculous. He's the fastest man.
Hey, guys.
Oh, my God.
Canadian TV, they're on point.
Croatia a minute away here. Only 4 minutes of stoppage time in both these games, which is a little shocking, but
you want me to explain it again,
What's he doing? Should Dane St. Clair have started this game? Just to turn the page a little bit?
What? Why you gotta bring Dane all the time? No, as I mentioned, the thing I feel bad is because you eliminated, and certain players will always won't be able to say I played a minute to the World Cup. But that's the reality of choices you have to make as a coach, because there's 26 players and you can't give a minute to everybody.
Do you think if Max was healthy and had come, Maxime, that he would have played though?
Good question. No, I think he would have stuck with Milan Borjan. You don't change the goalkeeper just because it's the 3rd game and you're out.
That's it. Croatia. Final whistle. Croatia is going on to the next round. It appears as the 2nd team out of Group F right now.
Well, that means
Morocco
qualified
on the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
Morocco's
if we go
Lock
to-
in, Mehdi.
Celebrate!
Let's
Come on,
go!
let's go!
He was just waiting for that moment.
From statue to man.
It only took what? Over 20 years. Close to.
Yeah, game over.
Yes.
You know,
Thierry Henry
officially
consoling
qualified.
Lukaku on the sideline. What a
All that.
terrible moment for him personally and collectively for Belgium.
It was written, guys. It was written
Wow.
after the first game.
Let's go. The Atlas Lions.
Man.
Congratulations, Mehdi.
guys.
Congratulations to Moroccans.
Thank you, Pat.
I have tons of
Appreciate
friends who are like, yay, because they were winners if Canada qualified or Morocco qualified.
Nice.
All right, you guys want to wrap this thing up?
Morocco too, so
But I got to say, because they were a dark horse, you know, nobody spoke about
true.
Morocco because Belgium and Croatia, and Canada was kind of the Cinderella story of terms of,
All right.
wow.
Let's
So-
do a little post-game show here. All right, Group F decided in this World Cup. Canada eliminated before the day started. They were not able to play spoilers. Morocco 2-1 winners. Croatia, Belgium, a scoreless draw. Belgium with opportunities that go wasted. Belgium out of this World Cup. Morocco finishing atop the group. Croatia in second. We will find out who their opponents are when Group E goes on this Thursday in the afternoon. Mehdi Ballouchy with us, Patrice Bernier, David Goss. I'm Andrew Wiebe. Mehdi, let's go. Morocco doubling their win total in the World Cup in this tournament. 2 wins, 1 draw, finish atop the group. A massive accomplishment, 7 points, plus 3 goal differential. Tell me how this feels. I see the Moroccans celebrating on the field. It's obviously an emotional moment for them. For you, I expect as well, for the entire country.
these guys will be national heroes. I mean, I think this is obviously the biggest win in a long time. You know, we haven't progressed, and as we said, since '86, the country will be upside down. They've gotten behind this team since the beginning, and I think it surprised everyone, including Moroccans, because to be fair, like, we were getting results, but we're not as good. We didn't think we'll get results against Belgium. We didn't think we'll get results against Croatia. We thought Canada game may be the only one we can compete and maybe get 3 points. So I think we've looked at the Belgium and Croatia games, that can we get a point? And I think, with Belgium, it turned into a win, and all of a sudden now you're topping the group, which is, if you told anyone that before the World Cup, or if you put any kind of money on it, you'd be a rich man.
What now? We don't know the opponent just yet. You
Well,
said during the
does this
watch-along
make
show we
it-
did, it's free money. Is it free money from
money.
Morocco, or
Yeah.
did these results change things?
I'll say this: I think even if they didn't go to the next round and they've lost to some version of Canada winning today, I think they'll still be welcomed with open arms. They'll be supported. I think they've done enough to win the country over. And again, I think going into the next round, there's nothing to lose. And I think what you're gonna see is going to be interesting now. You're gonna see, and I'm curious to see 2 things. Do they change the way they are? Because what's worked is, and I think Canada suffered from this from game 1 to game 2. Do they think they're a little bit better than what they really are? Do they start working maybe as hard as they have and do the suffering bit, because they've done that pretty amazing? And I think the other piece is, if we do kind of get any type of momentum, there's quality players that now they're free. So I think they'll be in and around the game. It depends on, of course, the opposition. I think you play Spain, you're gonna have to defend for your life. If you play someone else, I think they can be in and around the game.
There's one final huddle for John Herdman on the field. Patrice, no points for Canada at this World Cup. That has to be disappointing, but there were performances that they can look back on fondly. What do you think Herdman is telling this team? What would you tell this team after this final whistle?
We'll be effing back in 2026 now, guys. But no, I think at the end of the day, you have to say proud, because let's not lie. I keep remembering people. In 2019, Canada was nowhere near going to the World Cup. COVID hit, and they changed the format because it was supposed to be the top 6 ranked teams going to the Hex, and Canada was 7th or 8th. And so once that arose, opportunity came, belief grew, And now they're here. And nobody expected Canada to be at the World Cup. Because who are the favorites in Concacaf? Let's not lie. It's USA, Mexico, Costa Rica. And then that fourth spot was potentially a possibility. And so they went there. I think they wanted to do better than they did. And not to lie, I think they could have. They showed it. But you got to be proud and knowing, look, for some, it will be the last time. And I'm thinking about Thibaut Hutchinson, who spent 22 decades playing for the national team and having several moments of disappointment. And now he could say, I finished with Canada. I went to the World Cup. The dream that any kid has is to go to the World Cup. Any player who plays the game wants to go there once. And so proud and unfinished business now for the guys who will be there for the 3.5 years to prove that they maintain that level, being a top 25 or top 32 country in the world.
Yeah, and this is the story, obviously, for many Americans that know is you didn't want just people to say you're in the World Cup because you're a host, right? And that was the U.S.
Exactly.
in 1990, just getting there, and then to 94. And this can't, Lukaku is not having a good time. Canada is able to say that. And as you said, Patrice, prove over the next 3.5 years their level. But I think you come out of this and you say that Canada, especially as more players we expect to come through, the Shaquille Marshall-Ruddys and Jaden Nelsons and, Rita Zuhirs and even more names that we don't know, they'll have belief that they can play with anyone in the world. And that's what you want to be able to sell to your fans, to the country going into 2026, and Canada will have that opportunity, which is really special. And I'd say something we've talked about a bit, but now you've got these star players who are playing at a high level. That has also pushed the federation, right? What we see Alphonso Davies and his team doing is pushing the CSA to be more professional and giving them guidelines to get there. And now we obviously have the Players Union and all that working on it. So it feels like things are going to come really far, really fast. And this was a necessary step to get there.
What was the moment, the defining moment, the memorable moment of this World Cup, Patrice, that Canadians will think back on? Is it the performance against Belgium? Is it the Davies goal early in Croatia? What is going to be sort of the moment that lasts in the memory of the Canadian public from this tournament?
I think now what most people are going to talk about is, at least the soccer people, we scored a goal. Alphonso Davies, your best player, the poster boy of Canadian soccer, is the guy who scored that first goal. But I think mostly is saying, Belgium, you scored that PK, I'm sure they win that game. And it's a whole different story we're talking about now. So that credibility that they gained, the respect that they gained, so it's just to show that, yeah, they deserve to be there. And they didn't get outmatched, outclassed. I'm sorry, but I got to say it. They didn't play like Qatar. They didn't look like they weren't at the level. Now it's just to gain more level. But I believe the Belgium game was stuck because people finished that game going, we could have and should have beat Belgium. So it's going to be a highlight of this World Cup for Canada.
We see the emotions on display here in Qatar as we prepare for Group E to set the opponents for these teams. Mehdi, we see Lukaku bawling on the sideline, a moment for the Belgium golden generation that has passed them by. And then we see the celebrations for Morocco. You're not there, obviously. I bet you wish you were there. What's it like in Marrakesh? What's it like in Casablanca right now? What to be in Morocco in a moment like this?
Celebrations, man. I think this is. I think they've been thirsty for a trophy in that country for a long time. We've been in and around even the African Nations Cup semifinal, quarterfinal. And I think it's actually interesting you bring the Belgium point up because that is the generation, right? The De Bruyne, the Lukaku's, like this is the generation that really never. I hate to say it, but it panned out. Like they never really kind of won anything. And if you look at Morocco, this is our generation. Like now we have guys that are playing Champions League every year, and we didn't before. And it's not, of course, I'm not comparing to the Belgium squad to Morocco's. It's nowhere near. It's not even close. But for a country like Morocco, this is probably our best talent in a long, long time. Probably the best talent ever. And it's what do we do with it? And I think this is a trophy for us. This is massive. And I think can they get something down the line? And I'm talking about African Nations Cup, because we've been to finals, but it's not, I think that's another trophy that's been, they've been fighting for, but never really haven't won in a long time.
And the Federation president at Walid Regragoui's opening press conference 2 months ago said the focus is next AFCON 2023 and 2026, right? Like, this team was built to sort of scale to that. I want to push back slightly on everyone in the world. Belgium missed the 06 and 10 World Cup and finished third in 2018. I get they didn't win a trophy and like trophies and rings and all that culture. I think it's absurd because it's not here, it's everywhere. The failure of the golden generation, it passed them over, all that stuff. This is a country that doesn't have World Cup history. They got to a semifinal one time in the 80s. Like, this generation accomplished things that no team had ever accomplished before. And I get you want to win things, but 8 countries have won the World Cup ever. Like, I think it's kind of crazy that
we're not talking about winning the World Cup now, are we? I mean, isn't that sort of, that's pushing the conversation down a hill? Whereas we're at the top of the hill, we're saying, should this team have to the knockout round?
If they did not win a World Cup, they got as close as humanly possible by getting third place and going to a semifinal. Right? Literally, if they do not win a World Cup, that is the closest they can get.
Yeah, but again, we're not talking about winning a World Cup. We're talking about this group of players in this tournament and this group stage not performing to the level that they expected. And you can see that from their reaction. It doesn't have to be the world that says it, right?
But the commentary right now is not that they failed at this tournament. It's that the golden generation's time with the national team was a failure, and they never accomplished what they could.
Yeah, I'm personally not saying that. I'm saying that this particular moment for them is a failure. This is an opportunity that they didn't take advantage of.
That's in Belgium, the mentality that it's actually a good point, Gus, because they've now set a standard, that generation in Belgium, to where Belgium is considered top 10 in the world, which wasn't the case if you go 2 decades ago. Because, yes, they had Enzo Sifo, great generation in the 80s, but then after that, they kind of disappeared. So for them, it's just that, when you look at the players they have and they had, because after that you take away Van Bommel, who's not playing anymore. You say on paper they had a team that matched the top countries in the world, Brazil, Argentina, France, and all. But it's not bad, because if you look at Holland, everybody talks about Holland like great nation, but yet they haven't won it. They went to 2 finals. And so Belgium falls into that trap where you're kind of like one of those countries now is considered, you're always going to be considered good, kind of like Croatia, smaller population, and you reached as far as you could, because if you look at the other populations, England, France, it's 60 million, 70 million, 100 million. Usually you have a lot more talent at your disposal. So, but it's just sad because the way they go out, Belgium, you would have thought at least next round, and then it's done for that generation. They don't go to the next round, so it brings them so that that generation is finishing on a bad note or sour note compared to, okay, we pushed it knowing that we're not as great as we thought, but we were as good as where we could we believe we should be.
Are you going, Mehdi? You're going to Morocco? Did I hear that?
No, I'm going to Qatar tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah. So
he had all this planned out next.
You got your, you got you. He knew.
I know you guys talking about. Of course we're gonna make it through.
Yeah, that's why he was. That's why he was nervous during the show. He was like, "Oh my god, I got these tickets. I'm going to
ticket."
You could be
if USA keeps winning, Argentina keep winning. I'll be at that quarterfinal. So.
Okay. All right. Pretty good.
Have you been to a World Cup before?
Yeah. I went to Russia last time. I just go as a fan, just watch the games.
Nice.
We will all be, I assume, in the building in 2026. Let's turn the page here. We know Morocco is moving on. We know there's a long tournament ahead in Qatar. U.S. obviously playing in the early game, just like Canada today, on Saturday. 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll have a watch-along for you. That should be absolutely popping. We had about 7,000 people watching with us during that Iran game. So 10 a.m. stream, you have Netherlands and the U.S. to try to go to a quarterfinal. Round of 16, getting ready to start on the weekend. Let's look ahead, though, Patrice, before we let this one go. What does Canada need to do in the interim to perform better, to be at a higher level in 2026?
Now, if I'm the GM of Canada Soccer, I'm calling the top 10 nations and booking them for friendlies, because that's going to be hard. They already got Nations League. There's a little opportunity, and they probably will want to play you now. I know Denmark, knowing the people there, they're like, oh, Canada could be interesting. Those are teams that probably when you call them before, they would say, I'll call you back, and never call. And now Canada has to play these types of teams on a regular basis. Now they're negotiating for Copa America. You have to be there so that for the next 3.5 years, you're playing this standard games. So the guys who learned now will keep maintaining that. And the ones you're going to bring in to the group will be playing against top 20, top 25, top 30 countries. And every game is details. Like today, mistake at the back opens the game up, 1-0 Morocco. What if it was 0-0? Maybe the game would have been different, more pressure on Morocco. So right now, Canada has to book these games, make these 3.5 years where you're playing top 20, top 25 teams if you can, because the rest is, yes, Nation League and Concacaf, you play who you have to play. But you can't play USA and Canada or USA or Mexico every 3 months, but you need to play those types of games to maintain what they've just learned and to be better for 2026.
Where's the hope in your mind, Dave? I know that you maintain your honorary Canadian quasi-citizenship.
I mean, the hope is that the stars of this team are 19 and 20 years old and will only get better. We'll be the face of the team. We'll continue to lead. I think the hope is in what we've all talked about for the last 2 hours, which is the pipeline, the academy setup, the opportunity for players where they don't have to do what Patrice and Atiba did and go find a random Scandinavian team and find their career on their own. There's a pathway that players can follow. They don't have to figure it all out themselves. So I think that's a major portion of the hope, is that, what's been set up is not one golden team, but the process is correct now. And it will continue to produce and produce and produce. And on top of all of that, now you're a competitive national team. Patrice talked about the friendlies. That's massive, like to be able to play at that high level. The other thing that I see with this is Canada has developed great players that have chosen not to play for Canada. And now Canada is in the running for those players to want to play for Canada. And the way it worked for the U.S., when you talk about Serginho Dest and Yunus Musa and guys like that, is your best recruiters are your players. And so instead of the CSA showing up at a guy's doorstep in Europe and saying, play for us, Owen Hargreaves, the U.S. has used Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic to do that. And now Canada will have Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David talking to a Jebison and a Luca Koleosho and guys like that saying, we could do something special, come be a part of this. And I think for Canadians, just to be able to be in those convos is pretty exciting.
Absolutely. A huge accomplishment for Canada in World Cup qualifying, making history back in this tournament for the first time in almost 3 decades here, or more than 3 decades, almost 4. Morocco finished atop the group, though, 7 points, no losses for them. In Morocco and Senegal, that's 2 African sides making it past the group stage. It's the second time that's happened. 2014 was the other, Algeria and Nigeria there. They're the African side to finish atop their group since Nigeria in 1998. A huge accomplishment for Morocco. They are F1 in the bracket for the knockout rounds. We have a couple of those 4s set that will help us decide semifinalists as this World Cup rolls on. The U.S., of course, one of those. They take on the Netherlands on Saturday morning. 10 a.m. Eastern is the game time. 9:45 for the watch-along show. Tune in. It's going to be a great show. Charlie Davies, I believe Bruce Arena, Pa Modou, who has years of experience in the Netherlands. We will watch that one with you. As I said, we had thousands of people watching Iran with us. It's an incredible communal experience. Argentina, Australia on the other side in that foursome. Will the U.S. win? Can they win? What do you think of that matchup, Mehdi?
I like it for the U.S., to be honest. I think, as you said earlier, Cameron, I think might have been bad, but the game will be a little bit open. I think the U.S. in the midfield is better than Holland. I think the U.S. is riding a confidence booster from the last couple games, and I think the last piece is it's a young team that has also nothing to lose. I think if they get to this point and lose against Holland, it would be disappointing, but it's not as disappointing as it would be for Holland losing against the U.S. at this point of both federations. So I think the U.S. will be more free. I think Van Gaal will play, the 3 back line that will probably become 5. I think the U.S. will dictate probably more of the game. I think the last piece is how are we going to arrive to chances, and what does that look like, with or without Pulisic? What kind of 9 is in there? I think those are the decisions. Does Gio become more important in between the lines to kind of solve, make something happen, make a final pass? I think those are the fine details that could swing the draw.
What are you looking at, nitty gritty, Patrice? What do you think decides this game?
USA does final third. The difference is Memphis Depay came back, and he's a big piece for Holland, because you see when he's on the field, they're more dynamic. I felt the 2 games he wasn't, they were predictable. Frankie de Jong, he's another quality player. But what I like from the U.S. is they started utilizing the speed on the sides. They have Serginho Dest. They were attacking a lot on Robertson's side. And when they did, you got Pulisic's goal. So if they can use that, because I think that's their going in depth. And I would see Tim Weah playing center forward. I don't know, for some reason, him there, his runs, he seems to have that timing, that knack. But it's going to be an open game. I think they're falling on a very good opponent that suits their style of play. And it will be very tactical. I see in this game USA maybe beating Netherlands and going to the quarters.
All right, big thanks to Christina Uncle, big thanks to Mehdi, as well as Patrice. Dave, put a bow on this morning of action and look ahead for us. What are you thinking about after seeing Group F conclude, and as we look ahead to the U.S.?
I think one thing we've seen in history is when a World Cup is not in Europe or South America, anything can happen because they don't have those home advantages. And you see Morocco going through. We've already seen Senegal go through. We could see Japan get a shock later today, or Costa Rica. I think we're going to see some wild finishes and some unique teams get through it. I think that's really fun. And you talk about teams like Canada getting back to this stage, in the U.S. reestablishing themselves. I think there's a lot of good work being done by a lot of the teams that needed this World Cup to sort of set themselves back on the right stage. Ecuador in that conversation as well. So I think it's been fun, and there's nothing better than the 2 simultaneous games where everything affects each other. And that's pretty special. So it's going to be good. The U.S. on Saturday, I think it's going to be the most eyes this team will ever have on them. So go out and just prove you belong there and play soccer that people want to watch, and help pushing these guys be a star. And if the win comes, the win comes. If it doesn't, at least walk off the field knowing that you played your soccer and you went for it. And I think most people will accept that. 10
a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, one of the biggest moments in American soccer history. Tune in. We'll be watching along. Bruce Arena, Charlie Davies, Paul Moduka. 9:45 is the start on that one. With that, we're out of here. Congratulations to Morocco and Croatia. Until next time, Canada, you've made us proud in the meantime. Enjoy the afternoon games, everybody. Adios.
See you guys.